Before we begin, the name is placed on the top right side of the screen. Our female protagonist introduces herself as Hazel, the Witch of the Black Forest. However, she discloses her name used to be different, although it has not been called in years. It is because after she fell into the river and died in an accident, she possessed an evil witch from a fairy tale. At the outset, she decides to reveal she is a body that can survive even if it is strangled on a deserted island. She has tried various things to adapt. She also developed a hobby to bake human-shaped cookies. Her other hobbies include inviting people over and treating them to human-shaped cookies. But maybe it is because of the karma of the original body that she has been framed for baking a human. In the village, she begins to be known as Hazel, the cannibal witch of the Black Forest. People shivered even when passing by her cabin. So after much consideration, the method that she found is making the most terrifyingly sweet house that no one can just pass by. She gazes at the masterpiece she created with a beaming smile, her eyes twinkling with awe as she muses at this point. People cannot just pass by. She twirls around, imagining making friends and sharing cookies with them. Hiding behind a tree, she peeks out as a woman approaches the house. The woman takes a small bite of the cookie and begins to eat it. Just then, Hazel emerges from behind and whispers, "Is it tasty?" There's more inside, along with various teas. But in the next moment, the woman screams at the top of her lungs and runs for her life. Hazel's eyes instantly go dull as she reminisces about her loneliness in both her past and present lives. A memory of her grandmother resurfaces where she had smiled, thinking at least she had her grandma, who had told her to eat well and live well, even if it was about just one meal. Determination swirls in her eyes as she resolves to first enjoy something delicious and then grow stronger. As she makes sweets, she's in high spirits, her face lighting up with a smile as she finds all her creations adorable. She has made carrot cake, apple pie, various cookies, and even a basket full of scones. Looking out of the window at the weather, she muses, "Nice. The day is perfect too." However, the thought still lingers in the back of her mind that it would have been more perfect if she had someone alongside her to share her cookies with. But then she realizes she is not so alone after all. She quickly picks up her cat, who has been eyeing the cookie with its mouth watering. She sternly tells Daisy that she cannot have cookies but promises to make her cat cookies for her later. A dog then approaches, glaring at Daisy with displeasure at her attempts to gain weight. The dog screams at the cat to not gain weight on her body. Hazel giggles nervously watching them fight. She admits even though it is a bit lonely, it is fine since she has both of them. She also reveals they are also capable of magic like she is. Daisy is actually the soul of a dog inside a cat body. Aurora is a cat who resides in a dog body. Moving souls is considered a forbidden magic. However, the original Hazel broke the taboo and conducted an experiment, causing both of their souls to transfer into each other's bodies. She admits she doesn't know much about the witch whose body she possesses. Furthermore, she is unaware of the plot or the story's details. All she knows is that the main protagonists are Hansel and Gretel. She wonders if she can find Hansel and Gretel. Will she hold the role as the evil witch that will capture and eat them? Rubbing her heart in frustration, she groans, but she is not a cannibal. The poor girl thinks to herself she doesn't even know the book's content. Cannot she just be a good witch? The voices of some kids break through her thoughts. She looks out the window and sees them eating sweets. The boy murmurs that it's so good he's about to cry, looking very emotional. Meanwhile, the girl snaps her hand over his mouth, telling him to be quiet, and glares at him, saying the evil witch lives here. Gazing at the children in shock, she wonders what if they are Hansel and Gretel. Blurred events from the original story start to emerge in her thoughts, creating a feeling that something big is going to happen. Our female protagonist struggles to keep up afloat in the river as she desperately pleads for help. She couldn't even swim properly, but still carelessly got into the river with no proper thought. Even though it was a stupid act, she could not find herself to regret it, since that kid got to return to her family, unlike her who had no one to go back to. However, that did not change the fact that she did not want to die yet. With a sudden jolt, her eyes snap open only to meet an unfamiliar ceiling. Her eyes look around in confusion, trying to recognize the surroundings. Her gaze falls on some candles and old books. However, a gasp escapes her lips when her gaze falls on a coin she had drawn. From the reflection in the coin, she sees that her eye color has changed, leaving her feeling confused. She follows the line of the mirror beside her, and her eyes meet her reflection. For a moment, she stares in shock, unable to move, before the coin slips from her grasp, and she covers her mouth in disbelief. She realizes she has descended to the world of the fairy tale book that she illustrated. During the day, she used to be a kindergarten teacher. But at night, she was a side illustrator. She read one of the comments that they wanted to change the witch illustrator because it was too scary. She was shocked and wondered how scary an illustrated fairy tale characters in an illustrated book could be. Later on the phone, she was baffled when she realized her illustrated character was indeed very scary. Since she was just drawing a witch character, she did not expect to get into her body. Moreover, she never thought she would meet fairy tale characters in real life. Back in the present, she looks at the kids with a beaming smile, thinking finally something new in the boring route. She rushes to the kids, who look as if they have seen a ghost. They both murmur "evil witch" in unison before fleeing in terror. With a flick of her finger, she uses her magic to pull them back and grab them. She finds it amusing that they immediately called her an evil witch the moment they saw her. She sets them on the ground. She only sets them down when she enters her house. The older sister immediately shields her brother behind her back and demands she to let them go, while the little boy hiccups, not wanting her to eat him and insisting he's not very tasty. She appears baffled. Then her gaze lands on the cookie clutched in his hand tightly, as if it is very important even in a life-and-death situation. Clearing her throat, she states anyway, whatever, and teaches them if they eat from her house they should at least greet her and thank her. But the little girl exclaims she is not even thankful a bit, and that people said that bad witch should have been punished. Our female protagonist rolls her eyes and murmurs under her breath, "That is right, which means bad kids should also be punished." She is quick to deny the accusation of being a bad kid. However, Hazel glares at them with cold eyes, asking her if she means she doesn't regret it. She picks up a fork with deliberate, slow movements, building suspense as she murmurs, "Then they should be punished." The children look utterly terrified. Despite their fear, she finds them so cute that she considers stopping her teasing, though they resemble curious squirrels to her. She gives them a choice between two punishments, one to become her meal for the day, and the other to join her for tea and cake. Their mouths fall open in shock, their eyes glinting with greed as they gaze at the cake. The little girl tries to mask her fear and nervousness behind a facade of anger, trying to appear strong. She murmurs, does she think she will fall for that? But Hazel acts like she did not utter a word and instructs her to go and wash their hands so they can eat. Hazel is settled on the table with the kids sitting opposite her, maintaining a stern expression when in reality though, she is struggling to keep from bursting into laughter at how adorable the children are. Cutting a slice from the cake, she moves it toward them, urging them to try the carrot cake she baked. Both children look worried and murmur their dislike for carrots, expressing their reluctance to eat it. However, she insists they don't know how delicious carrots can be, and with the use of her magic, she silently pours honey on it to make it sweet. After she has done the art of ventriloquism, both kids quickly change their minds about not eating it, and now eagerly ask for it. She smiles brightly at them as they practically devour the cake. She asks them their names. The girl informs her name is Luna and her brother's name is Luca. Hazel tells them their names are really pretty and also inquires about their age. Luna is 7 years old, while Luca is 5 years old. Hazel smiles at them, but it does not escape her notice that they are not Hansel and Gretel. She exclaims they look very cute together, and then asks her if their parents will be worried that they are with her. A tense silence falls over them. The adorable smiles no longer on their faces, as both are stunned into silence. Luca's eyes dim with a profound sadness. The silence is pierced by Luna's voice, who, in between pauses, reveals that their parents threw them away. Hazel looks at the kid with a stunned gaze, the slice of cake in her plate forgotten. She recalls her own childhood. The little Hazel was very excited as she was given a task to create something special for her parents. She had rushed home, with anticipation sparkling in her bright eyes, wondering if her mom would be happy with the gift she made. Bursting through the door, she excitedly called her mom's name, only to be met with deafening silence. Her eyes darted around anxiously before they landed on a stack of letters on a table. The letter included an apology and an instruction for her to remain with her father until her mother comes for her. There was no explanation and nothing else. But in the end, her father also abandoned her. Worry flickers in her eyes as she looks at the children, thinking they were also abandoned, just like her. She cannot help but wonder what did these beautiful kids do to deserve being thrown away, and doubt begins to bloom in her heart again, about what if they are Hansel and Gretel. Another thought crosses her mind that maybe they will have to kill her for this story to end, but she instantly dismisses the thought because she wishes for a warm and desirable ending, not some cruel fairy tale. At that moment, she resolves that until the parents of these children don't realize their wrongdoings and come looking for them, she will assume the role of their guardian and take care of them. She then brings them some cookies, telling them she has made them herself. Now she's on a mission to be a kind witch. Luna refers to her as a witch to catch her attention. Hazel corrects her, instructing her to call her Hazel. She questions, with fear evident in her eyes, that if she is feeding them with the intention to eat them later. Hazel is left standing in pure astonishment, unable to respond. Tears well in her eyes as Luna misunderstands, believing that these cookies are also baked people. Luca also misunderstands that she shrinks people like this and bakes them. Not knowing how to deal with the paranoid children, Hazel pushes them towards the bathroom, instructing them to wash up, but they further pale, thinking that she is going to eat them after she washes them. The baffled expression on Hazel's face clearly shows that she never had to reassure little kids that she won't eat them. She questions them, asking if they have ever seen someone wash and dress a chicken just to eat it later. However, the poor children did not even see someone roasting a chicken. She looks at them with a pitiful expression, thinking they might have come from a very poor household, and decides to get some chicken for them tomorrow. As she dries their hair with a towel, she instructs them to go play with the cat and dog while she cleans up the house. Lucas stares at her with curious yet shy eyes. Later at night, laying on a bed, Luca is wide awake while his sister sleeps. Suddenly, Luca blurts out to his sister that the witch is not that scary, right? Hazel, who was about to knock the door to check on children, pauses and a smile adorns her lips. However, the sister, who had been dozing off until now, states that she is awake and won't sleep so they would not be eaten by the witch at midnight. Hazel barges in, scolding the little girl to sleep tight so she could grow taller and assuring her she is full, so she won't eat them. After leaving the room with a smile on her face, she realizes she does not feel lonely anymore and is grateful for the children's presence. The next morning, Luna's face drains of color as she stares at the sheets her brother has wet. Luca trembles, unsure of what to do. What if they anger the witch and she decides to eat them? She gently caresses her brother's hair, offering reassurance as she tells him she's gonna check if the witch has awakened and instructs him to stay here. She slowly steps into the living room. The entire house looks clean. She looks around, unable to find the witch. For a moment, she considers using this chance to escape, but then her gaze lands on the witch outside the window, hidden behind a tree, listening to some women. Luna wonders what she is doing. Further thinking, could it be that she is sneaking up on them and believing finally she can see who she truly is? While Hazel wonders what those women are talking about, it seems like a long conversation. The object of their gossip is the Grand Duke. He is known to be crazy. Hazel's interest peaks as she hears his name. In this empire, there is only one Grand Duke, the Grand Duke Elliot Blaine, a man who inherited the dukedom at a young age in place of his parents who passed away at an early age. The Duke, thanks to his outstanding abilities, is thriving without suffering any damage to his reputation because of his notorious ways. Lost in her thoughts, Hazel does not notice when the women spot her. She jumps in shock as they scream "Evil Witch" at the top of their lungs, fleeting in terror. Desperately, Hazel tries to stop them, calling after them, ready to give an explanation, just wanting them to listen to her story. Luna watches the entire scene unfold with sadness in her eyes. Hazel halts abruptly when she hears someone call her name. She turns around to see Luna, who looks as though she has gathered all her courage to come forward. With a trembling voice, Luna explains that Luca made a mistake on the bed and that she needs Hazel's help. It is clear in the little girl's eyes that it took her a lot of courage to approach Hazel for help and give her a chance by trusting her not to hurt them. Luca's eyes are filled with tears as he apologizes with an adorable frown that although she saved him and let him sleep here, he peed in the bed. Hazel glances at him nervously, wondering why is he scared so much, and if he used to get scolded a lot for it. Caressing his hair tenderly, she teases him that last night a fairy water made a pool on the bed. Crouching in front of him, she asks him if he got nervous because he has slept in a new crouching in front of him. She asks him if he got nervous because he has slept in a new place. Avoiding her eyes, he murmurs it is because Lulu is not here. At her confused expression, he explains Lulu is his rabbit, and he wishes to see him. However, Luna points out that he still peed when there was Lulu. She clarifies to Hazel that it is his doll that he left back at home. Hazel asks for the location of their house as she resolves to bring it. Lucas' eyes light up at the thought of getting his rabbit back, but before he can blurt out the location, his sister covers his mouth and states they do not have a house. Hazel looks at the child with confusion and repeats they do not have a house, to which she explains the house has burned down to ashes. And if not, then why would they have been here? She realizes something is suspicious, but decides to let it go for now. Later, while she's drying the sheets, Luca looks up at her and asks her if she's not angry, and is not going to eat them. She replies if they go to the forest to gather and pick all the mushrooms, she won't eat him. However, his face falls at the mention of mushrooms because they taste too bad. Clutching the sheets tighter, she looks at him with an intense expression of awe, thinking maybe she's really evil because she wishes to eat him up right now. She announces she is done with the laundry, so they should go now. As they are venturing deeper into the forest, she instructs them to hold her hands as it is dangerous inside. Luna questions, is she going to sacrifice them to the forest? Looking perplexed, she asks her what is talking about. She points to the nearby mushrooms and instructs them to pick 10 of them. They ask her how much 10 is, and she explains it's the same number as their fingers. As the children begin pulling out the mushrooms, they chat casually among themselves. Luca mentions that it's his first time seeing mushrooms like these, admitting that he even thought they might be a type of tree fruit. Luna responds, saying it's because they've been locked inside the house for too long. Her remark catches Hazel off guard. She realizes that it makes sense now. She had wondered why it seemed odd that these clever children were here when harvesting and farming are so essential to life in this area. After all, the people who live here usually learn to work with crops from a young age. It now makes sense to her that the children only knew table manners, indicating a sheltered upbringing. She starts to suspect that the people who had custody of them were neglectful, as children need to explore and learn through experience, which requires being outside. This realization stirs something within her, and she begins to think that perhaps she shouldn't let them go, even if their parents come looking for them. They both look up at her when out of the blue she asks if they should visit the village. However, as her words sink in, huge, beaming smiles appear on their faces at the mention of the village. She tells them they can buy tasty foods, watch acrobats on the street, and promises to even get them pretty clothes. Both children stand there, jaws dropped, awed by the scenario she has painted for them. Smiling brightly at them, she declares they would do everything they cannot do at home. Out of the blue, Luca reveals it would have been so good if older brother was also there with them, catching her off guard. Luna quickly and aggressively whispers in his ear, asking why he's talking about something like that. What if she decides to take them back home? Hazel realizes, just as she guessed, the burnt house was a lie. Luca, pouting, states, but he really misses him. Luna points out why they should miss the people who threw them away. Hazel eyes dim listening to their conversation. She cannot help but worry about their conditions while living with their parents. To her, these abandoned children are the saddest thing in the world. She resolves to give all her attention to the kids at the moment. At the market, she questions them. Where do they want to go first? Suggesting if they should go buy clothes first. Luna tugs on her hand, wanting to go over there to the dressmaker. The owner opens her mouth to greet them but instantly closes it, shocked when she realizes who Hazel is. Hazel looks down, thinking to herself, of course they're going to be shocked, a witch coming to a dressmaker. She always made her own clothes while the fairy was tasked with making her shoes, but now that she's aware she will stick with the children for quite a while, she believes she needs to get on good terms with the villagers so she can do what she wants. Putting on a bright smile, she greets the owner and states she would like to buy kids' clothes and shoes. She shows them a pouch of money and assures them not to worry about the money. Both the women are shocked when they find out about the children. The girl cannot help but think they might be kidnapped and suggests they should not take orders from her. However, the owner believes if she has money, then she's a customer. She wants the saleswoman to hurry up and sell her something and send her off. Fearing that she might get mad and turn them into frogs, Luna, listening to their conversation, glares at them and suddenly screams at them, demanding how dare they insult them and if the people in the countryside treat customer this rudely. With that, she grabs both Hazel and her brother and storm out of there. Outside, an elderly woman approaches them, insisting that she will show them what they need. Despite the warnings from others not to get too close to Hazel, she brushes them off and moves closer. She observes that the children are neat and have good complexions, noting they don't look like poor kids. Her gaze then falls on Luna's dark-as-night hair and striking purple eyes. Feeling nervous, Hazel blurts out, "Yeah, there must have been an imperial family among their ancestors." After buying some dresses from the elderly woman, they head over to purchase shoes. Luna's eyes light up with excitement as she examines the options. She expresses her gratitude but then can't help but ask, how can she afford all of this? How does she earn money? The lie swiftly slips through her lips that she sells jam and mushrooms. In reality, she is actually extremely wealthy. The first time she woke up and went to that dark basement, there was an enormous amount of gold coins. It wasn't her money, but she was just simply living. But since she had no family members, she didn't have anyone to spend it on. She snaps out of her thoughts when she overhears some women discussing the bounty being offered by the Grand Duke. The bounty is for information about the Great Princess and Great Prince who have been kidnapped. Her eyes widen in shock, and even the children freeze in their spots. Hazel looks worried, thinking how awful that they were kidnapped and maybe she can find them with her teleportation magic. She asks the women if they happen to know what those kids look like, while the children next to her look freaked out. She turns sharply at the sound of a screech, only to find Luna pointing at a rabbit and exclaiming that it looks like Lulu. Hazel smiles and exclaims that it is great and asks for Lucas' opinion about it. However, the child frowns and states there's only one Lulu and the rabbit isn't him. Nervously, she glances around, only to realize that Luna is no longer in her spot. Alarmed, she calls out Luna's name and begins rushing around, worried that Luna might have been kidnapped just like the princess. However, she abruptly halts in her tracks when she spots Luna nearby, pulling down some posters from the wall. Luna stares anxiously at Hazel, her legs shaking uncontrollably. Just as her gaze falls on a wanted poster, Luna suddenly tears it, making her question why she did that. Luna lies that she wanted to draw a picture, but she could not find any paper. She gently scolds her for not telling her and instructs her to make sure to tell her next time. She grabs both of their hands and announces they are going to buy paper and some crayons. On her way, she hears several people talking about the issue. She thinks to herself everywhere she goes it is all about the Grand Duke and wonders if it is his children that are kidnapped. Also thinking if the rumors about him going mad were about this, she believes if he got married, it would not be long ago. The kids must be very young. How unfortunate. Suddenly, she claims she wishes to see him with heart in her eyes, making the kids confused. She has heard that the Grand Prince is famous for being handsome. She wishes to witness how he would look with an angry expression on his face. His looks are described as having silver hair, as if a fairy had carefully blocked each strand of moonlight and draped it over. Eyes like amethyst, as if pure gemstones were masterfully set into him. It is heard even the greatest sculptures of the time cannot capture his beauty. On the other hand, the Grand Duke gazes at the picture of Luca hanging on the wall, tenderly caressing it. He holds Lulu in his hand, wondering how Luca is coping without the toy, as he has nightmares when it's not there. He reflects that if anything were to happen to Luna and Luca, he wouldn't be able to underscore, but before he can finish his thought, the door bursts open and a knight exclaims that they have received a report. At a dressmaker's shop in the village near the edge of the Black Forest, there are children who look exactly like the prince and princess, and they are even being called by their real names. He also informs him they are with the witch. Meanwhile, Hazel stretches her arms above her head, reflecting on how fun today was and looking forward to cooking with what they bought. She also decides she wants to draw pictures with Luna and Luca. She thinks about how time used to crawl by, but now it races past. Suddenly, she flinches as the door swings open and Luca steps out. He climbs onto her lap, and she questions why is he awake. Luca responds he was scared. She drapes a blanket on his curled figure on her lap and reminds him Luna is here with him and tells him to sleep. Luna appears from behind and states that she isn't asleep either, climbing onto the couch while muttering about how unrefined it is to sleep on the couch like that. Hazel smiles at her, brushing her hair affectionately, and acknowledges how hard it must be for her to take care of her younger sibling. She admits that if she were in Luna's position, with no house to shield them from the wind and rain, no food to eat, and no adults to protect her, she would have cried and given up right away. Luna suddenly gazes down, murmuring that the outside world is scarier than she thought. Hazel pulls her into her lap, praising her for making it all the way here. She reassures Luna that she can leave the adult tasks to her from now on. She can just be a 7-year-old. Just as Luna is about to fall asleep, she murmurs Hazel's name and asks if they can stay together forever. Hazel is startled by the sudden request but replies gently, of course. She thinks about how she wishes to keep living like this together with both of them. She silently prays to God, asking to let them continue living happily, just the three of them, and hopes that the children's father will never come looking for them. But it's too late. The Grand Duke is already outside her house. The next day she wakes up and stretches her arms, feeling her body stiff from sleep. She looks surprised when there's a knock on the door. Cautiously opening it, she's pushed back as the door swings open violently, revealing the Grand Duke with a sword pointed at her. He declares that she is accused of kidnapping. Just then, both children appear behind her, and she worries, believing it's not good for them to see her like this. With a nervous giggle, she asks if he's the father of the kidnapped children, assuring him there must be some misunderstanding. However, from behind him, Luna screams that it's not true. The knights instantly approach, referring to Luna and Luca as the prince and princess, leaving her utterly baffled while the Duke's piercing gaze remains fixed on her. It then dawns on her that he is the Grand Duke. The realization sinks in, and she thinks to herself, no wonder she thought he was so handsome, but then she shakes her head, reminding herself that now is not the time to think about such things and shift her focus to the fact that Luna and Luca were the children of the Grand Duke who were missing. Now it is clear to her why they were so sheltered and unaware of the outside life. Because they have been aristocrats all this time, she deadpans, then she got herself into a big mess. Suddenly, both children grab onto the Grand Duke's legs, startling him as they declare that if he executes Hazel, they will starve for the rest of their lives. He replies that in that case he will exile her. They quickly counter that if he does that, they won't eat carrots for the rest of their life. This leaves him confused as they never ate carrots to begin with. He reminds them they do not eat it, to which they say they eat whatever Hazel makes for them. He turns to ice in shock, completely taken aback by their unexpected declaration. He shifts his focus to Hazel, demanding to know what she has done with his siblings. Lifting her chin with the tip of his sword, he leans in closer, his presence intimidating her. She murmurs what he means. She just fixed their picky eating habit. He's suspicious because these kids are so stubborn that it is something that so many people have not been able to achieve over the years. One of the knights suggests it seems like she's playing with their minds, while the other informs there are many rumors that witches use black magic. Hazel thinks alright, she needs to get rid of the sword first as he is treating like a chicken whose head he can cut off any time. Just as her finger grazes the sword, she instantly pulls it back as light radiates from it. Realizing it possesses holy powers, she starts looking around, unable to find the holy knight nearby. She startles when he screams at her, demanding to know what she did. She replies that he can't scream in front of the kids. They'll get scared. That's when Luca bursts into tears. Hazel looks like she might cry too as she glances at Luca. Gathering her courage, she grabs a fork and holds it up, telling him that if he's that curious, she'd be happy to let him know. He eyes the fork with suspicion. She reassures him, saying, "Don't worry. No matter how powerful you think witches are, there's nothing they can do with a fork." Hazel shows him a carrot cake and, taking a spoonful of it, offers it to him. However, he orders his men to take the cake, claiming he needs to test it, believing she is trying to use it to turn his siblings into puppets. He then turns sharply, asking the kids to follow him, but she asserts from behind that they're not going anywhere. He pauses and looks back at her in shock when she declares that the children claim they are being locked up and neglected. He momentarily looks troubled, then refocuses and instructs his siblings to go to the carriage. But suddenly, Hazel uses her powers to shut the door, announcing that he cannot take them and questioning what would happen if he neglects them again. His expression sharpens as he demands she open the door immediately. One of the knights steps forward, saying he'll break it down with an axe. In desperation, she blurts out that she will be a good guardian for the kids. He retorts that he's aware of the rumors surrounding her, and his demeanor shifts, becoming menacing as he questions how dare she promise them anything. He warns her that if he finds any evidence against her, she will be exiled. Meanwhile, both children cling to their brother, insisting that Hazel doesn't eat humans, and that if they pick mushrooms together, she doesn't eat people. They attempt to return to Hazel, who tries to give them a reassuring smile. Crouching in front of them, she tells them they have to go home now and promises to write to them. Even if they can't read, they can ask others to read for them. However, the Duke scoops up his siblings, believing she has manipulated them. It doesn't matter anymore. He leaves the house and heads toward the carriage. The children look very sad. Hazel rushes to the window of the carriage, pleading for just a minute, but he tunes out her every plea. She continues to plead with the Duke to wait a minute. His blank face becomes irritated when she finally manages to get on his last nerve. He hops off of the carriage and asks her what's the matter. She avoids his gaze, looking nervous as she murmurs, "These are the children's belongings. She wants him to take them." He looks conflicted for a moment before deciding he has no need for a witch's cursed item. She lets her head fall in defeat, thinking that is right. The Grand Dukedom probably only deals with top-quality items. She also thinks about how, despite these not meeting their standards, the children were angels to them. He looks away, stating they cannot stay any longer. Luna calls her brother by his name and declares with firm authority that he would not kill Hazel, while Luca commands him to hurry up and take their things from her. He looks at them dumbfounded, probably not used to getting orders from his tiny siblings, while Hazel looks at the children with a gaze of astonished affection, calling them her little peanuts. The Grand Duke looks pretty offended and orders his siblings to get inside, Claiming it is dangerous, they obey, but not before thanking her for taking care of them so well. He turns to them in shock and states what do they mean. They remind him he's the one who always told them to thank others for helping them. He sighs deeply before he turns around, his demeanor no longer menacing and harsh. He states he thanks her for protecting his younger sibling safely. A smile lights up on her face, but it is too soon, as in the next moment he secretly gives her a glare and murmurs she probably manipulated them. The smile wipes off her face in an instant. She actually looks heartbroken. He heads back to the carriage and commands his men to load the girl's luggage onto the back of the carriage. They take off, leaving her standing there all alone. She wants them to be healthy. Her eyes look so dim, she is sorry for not keeping her word about being together forever. Her pet family with concerned eyes make their way to her while she is lost in thoughts, thinking about the promises she made to them, the promises about making stew that they love for dinner, or how she was planning to raise bunnies on the farm because they wanted. She wanted to do all of that for them because they brought color into her once lonely life. And now that she thinks about it, she never even got to say thank you. Her dog nuzzles her face into her dress, probably sensing her inner turmoil. The dog wants to know if she's all right. She claims she's all right, but the tears dripping from her eyes like raindrops tell a different story. Rubbing her eyes to clear the blur, she crouches down and says that if she is worried about the kids, she can always send them to watch over them. And with that, just like how the children appeared in her life, they disappeared without a warning. It's 5:00 p.m., and the weather's perfect. Luna keeps her sharp gaze fixed on the man in charge of the ingredients, who has a habit of slacking off. She informs her brother that about 20 seconds remain, and so far, the plan is running smoothly. 20 seconds later, they're sprinting out of there like their tails are on fire, with Luna announcing it's time to move. Not a good idea. Luca trips and face plants into the floor, his bunny in tow. Luna steadies him, shaking her head, saying she just can't deal with him right now and urging him to get up before they get caught. She startles when she realizes the slacking employee is returning, nearly screaming in panic for her brother to hurry up. Somehow, they manage to slip into the carriage just as the man prepares to embark on his journey. Luna beams, declaring it a success, but she spoke too soon. The next moment, the carriage curtains swing open, and the Grand Duke stands there, his eyes narrowed at the siblings. Luna looks shocked, murmuring, "How did he know?" The Grand Duke thinks to himself that no matter how clever they are, they're still mere children. Did they really believe he would be fooled by the same trick as last time? In the main building of the Grand Duchy, the maid apologizes to the Duke for failing to monitor them properly. Standing tall in all his glory, the Grand Duke announces a ban on the tuxedo cats, likely due to Daisy sneaking by and getting caught. He insists on thorough checks of everyone leaving the Grand Duchy. Then he shifts his attention to Daniel, ordering him to ensure the meal is prepared in the kitchen after inspecting the ingredients. At the dining table, the Grand Duke is seated at the center, with his siblings across from him. He tells them that tonight's dinner is what they've been craving, urging them to end their hunger strike. He also asks if they know how many days it has been since they left that cottage. He also reminds them he upheld his promise and did not kill the witch. Luca exclaims he wants another chocolate. This causes the Duke to lash out at him as he cannot even remember the count of chocolates he has already given to him in these 2 weeks. He groans, rubbing his face in frustration, thinking how is it that his siblings' childish tactics are more difficult to bear than the Emperor's schemes that he gets to deal with almost every day. He can't help but think how come the children do not understand the reason he keeps such a close eye on both of them. It's because no one knows when danger will reach out towards them like demonic beasts. The chef faces the Grand Duke asking should he bring out that dish. The Duke orders him to go ahead. In the next instant, the chef's face pales. He thinks, is this for real? Do they really like the menu and wonder what if he cuts him up like the children's nannies? He reminds himself they have eaten witch's food, and as the head chef of the mansion he cannot afford to lose to the witch. When he reveals the dish, both the children gasp in shock, looking like they have seen a ghost. The dish before them is beef stew with the carrots of the Grand Duchess chef, Harold. The maids exchange murmurs among them, appearing shocked. It is revealed that he initially put a ban on carrots. The poor chef releases a deep sigh, thinking he cannot be compared with that cunning witch like this. Luca scoops up a spoonful of carrots and shoves it into his mouth, leaving the chef utterly shocked. Even the Grand Duke looks taken aback. They're both surprised to see him tackling the carrots first. The chef feels relieved, thinking he wouldn't have to worry about being fired after all. But his relief is short-lived, as Luna lets out a groan of dissatisfaction and declares that the carrots taste bitter. The Grand Duke tells her to speak more ladylike. Nervously, she blurts out she means the carrots taste of dirt. She turns to the chef and instructs to chop carrots into tiny pieces and completely boil them. Luca hesitantly adds he wishes to eat Hazel's carrot cake. The Grand Duke looks a little worried as he reminds Luca it has already been 10 days since they have been brought back here. His dismissive behavior about it fills tears in his brother's eyes. Luna suddenly rises up, clutching his brother's arm. She declares they should go now. They rush out of there while their brother shouts at their departing figures because the meal isn't even over yet. In Luna's room, the siblings sit with their backs turned to their brother, their postures mirroring each other as they clutch their knees tightly. His brother declares there will be no dinner for them today since both of them were disrespectful to him. Pouting, Luna shoots back it doesn't matter. However, in the next second, Luca's mouth falls open when his brother says, "Really? Then he will see to it that there will be no chocolate for a month either." However, Luna seems undeterred as she murmurs, "Then they don't need chocolate either." The poor kid looks conflicted, but resolves to stand by his sister. Out of the blue, Luna demands for him to bring back their nanny. Confused, the Duke reminds them they were the ones who chased her out. She was a talented person they managed to bring over from the other side of the empire. After a struggle to convince the woman known for raising the most troublesome children to work for them, his siblings ended up making her submit her resignation letter. Luna wails she was talking about Hazel, not that nanny. For the first time, their brother seems actually perplexed as he murmurs almost to himself, just what did she do to them? He remembers how they've always acted like nannies were their lifelong enemies. Suddenly, Luca pats himself in the back and states she patted his back like this. The Duke is confused for a moment and wonders if she hit them. Luna is quick to shut that line of thought and declares Hazel does not nag at them like he does either. The Duke is a little hurt that she is comparing that evil witch with her own brother. He points out she lured them with her sweet candy house. Luna snaps at him, warning him not to talk about Hazel like that. She aggressively gestures at her body and asks him if it looks like any part of her is missing, or if she has been eaten anywhere. The Duke opens his mouth to say something, but a gentle tug on his sleeve shuts him up. His little brother flutters his adorable eyes at him and pleads with him to let him go to Hazel. Moreover, he even wishes for his brother to join them. Shutting his eyes, the Duke insists, no, followed by a definitive absolutely not. Luna points out it has always been a no. When has he ever allowed them to do what they wished for? Just then, there's a knock on the door, followed by Daniel's request to get inside. The Duke does not reply at first. The reality of never being able to anything he wanted either begins to settle in his mind. He breaks out of his trance when Daniel informs a letter has arrived from His Majesty the Emperor. He replies he would be there right away. As he turns to leave, he halts when Luna's voice cuts through the air, screaming for him to go away as he did last time. He realizes she is referring to the expedition he went on last time. However, he wants them to know he thought of them the entire time he was gone. On his way back, he cannot help but think about his parents. He is already aware that he is the eldest and the only adult, and as the head of the family, he is the only one who can protect those children. But no matter how much he tries to become a righteous man, sometimes the burden is just too much. On the other hand, Hazel stands by the window, watching the rain pour down. Feeling the weight of loneliness, she shifts her attention back to her pets and says, "It's pouring today too." Suddenly, the cat leaps into her arms, asking, "When are the little ones coming back?" Hazel reminds her she pretended to be annoyed all along, but turns out she got attached to them too. Her eyes look hauntingly sad as she realizes attachment is truly scary. She confesses she sent Daisy to the Grand Duchy a few days prior. The inside of the Grand Duchy was spacious and filled with food too. But most importantly, the children were also doing well. After being reassured, she tried to comfort herself with the carrot cake she liked so much. And that was when she realized she could no longer bring herself to eat carrots. The dog suggests she adopt a child. She counters who would let a witch adopt a child, and even if that happened, people would still point fingers at them. The sound of a knock on the door stirs her into action. She can't help but notice the strange increase in guests lately. As she swings open the door, she glances back at her dog in confusion, who seems to expect her to tell him to get on his knees and go to bed. Meanwhile, the cat is too hypnotized by the figure before her to utter a word. When she shifts her gaze to the front, disbelief washes over her because the figure before her is someone she least expected. The Grand Duke. A few days ago, there was a decree from His Majesty the Emperor, who once again expected his brave services. He crumpled the letter in his hand before throwing it away. Daniel pointed out it hasn't even been a month since he returned from the last expedition. He agreed and asked how many times has it been just this year. However, he believed surviving each time was the greater problem. It was eating at him. What would happen to his siblings if he left the Grand Duchy again? Also, he received the report on the cake from the alchemist and pharmacist as requested. As he flipped through the contents, a smile made its way on his lips. He was relieved it was just an ordinary, delicious cake and wasn't harmful to the children. It was a relief, he repeated again. However, he wondered, was it really just a cake? Daniel believed that wasn't the case. The witch must have used some special magic that no one knows about. He pointed out, but they did not sense anything. Daniel countered he did not either. However, the Grand Duke still found it suspicious as hell. A wicked witch who takes such good care of the children while expecting nothing in return. Daniel agreed because there was even a rumor saying she baked people into her pool. He revealed she's been known to turn villagers into frogs just because she did not like the way they look at her, and that she turned all the grapes at the autumn wine festival into mice. Not to mention there is no proof against her. From what the Grand Duke remembers, there was also a time where a witch who did not get along with her mysteriously died, and a few years ago she also completely changed her appearance, and ever since her appearance changed, all the evil deeds she committed stopped. The Grand Duke found it all very suspicious. He thought about how they only had 1 week left before the expedition. The image of Luna crying came to his mind. He called Daniel, who was alerted. He asked him he used to be a holy knight, right? Daniel stuttered out a yes. In response, a smirk appeared on his lips. Back to the present, he continues to look at Hazel in front of him. Hazel, feeling intimidated, shoots her eyes down and asks him in a shaky voice what he is doing here. She wonders if he brought children too. But when her gaze lands on the carriage, she realizes of course not. There's only one horse. Her gaze then lands on the footprints. He studies her face, wondering what is she standing there thinking so hard about. He calls her name and asks her if she could spare him a moment of her time. She is surprised, because when she breaks out of her thoughts, she finds him so close to her and wonders why he's so close. She clenches her fist thinking how he insults her, then calls her Miss Hazel with respect. It is so obvious to her that he has come to ask for a favor. She believes he probably wants her to use some forbidden magic for his own benefit. She bluntly rejects him, turning her back on him, claiming she's busy. She calls her pets, wanting to go mushroom picking while he listens. She thinks to herself, he seems relaxed, so nothing must have happened to the kids. In that case, she believes there is no need to talk any further. Outside, she looks at the sun shining brightly. The rain stops so quickly. However, she is irritated as he is still following her in silence. The cat wagging her tail declares that man smells like the little ones. She gently scolds her cat not to wag her tail, reminding her he is a bad man. He also tells the cabinet to act like a puppy in front of other people, fearing that somebody might notice. The cat in the dog's body points out that talking to herself like that makes her look even more suspicious. She glances back at him, and with a mix of fear and nervousness, she asks why he's following her. Smirking, he replies he is a busy man and he wishes to get over this talk quickly. She suggests why doesn't he go back then. She realizes she is being unusually cold, but maybe she's annoyed thinking about how he mistreated the children and he abandoned them. So what is he plotting now? He continues to follow her and asks where they are going. The forest? She points out they are already in the forest. He then changes his question. Why are they going there? She pauses, finding him unbearably annoying. She glances back at him with an evil smirk and announces she is taking the noble blood of the Grand Duke deep into the forest to offer it to the great demon. The Duke flinches. She realizes his shocked expression is just like Luna's. The offended man demands how dare she lie to the ruler of this land. She ignores him and focuses on the mushrooms she found. He crouches next to her, looking at the mushrooms as if they're some rare species. He's curious to know why she's picking this. She's so confused by his reaction that she basically questions herself to eat, obviously. He smirks at her, guessing she's being cautious because he's here. He tells her to go ahead and gather what she needs. He says all this while pointing at a mushroom, which is so deadly that even one bite could prove to be fatal. With a baffled look, she wonders if he actually believes that witches only pick poisonous mushrooms. She asks if he would like to eat them, so she can serve him plenty. However, in the next moment, her gaze lands on Daisy, climbing a tree to reach the beehive. Just as the cat is about to touch it with its claw, Hazel exclaims in frustration. She can't take this anymore. She flinches and turns around when she senses something, only to find Elliot pointing an arrow directly at her. The murderous aura in the air is unmistakable. She wonders, is he going to kill her? What did she ever do to him? Just as he releases the arrow, she uses her magic to stop it, unable to tolerate this nonsense anymore. When the arrow drops to the ground, she's shocked, realizing something is off. It wasn't aimed at her. In the next moment, a large, menacing presence looms behind her. She turns, only to find a bear. The bear doesn't give her much time to react and charges at them as they run for their lives. Damn it. Elliot curses under his breath. He glares at her and demands, why the hell did she save the bear? Unable to trust her, he blurts out, not to tell him she is the one who summoned it. She snaps back. If she summoned it, would she be running away right now with him, he mutters. He will handle this and orders her to step aside. But she refuses to leave Daisy, who is still stuck in the tree. With a swift motion of her magic, she hurls the beehive at the bear's head. For a moment, she admires her clever move, but panic quickly sets in as she realizes this is not the time for it. She urgently asks Daisy if she's hurt anywhere. A hand on her shoulder gets her attention. The dude wants to know, wouldn't it have been better for her if the bear attacked him? She blushes, realizing he's too close. Picking Daisy into her arms, she demands, why? Why would she wish death on someone she has only seen twice? She wonders if this guy has paranoia or something, like one of those people who think everyone's out to kill them. If he's that crazy, it makes sense to her why he locked up his siblings. He gently takes her hand and states if she doesn't want him dead, then maybe she is doing all this to gain his trust, and maybe with these delicate hands of hers, she summoned the bear only to take it down herself. She lashes out at him, telling him to get lost. When the rain becomes too heavy, she retreats into the cave and settles down, stating bluntly that she's not interested in earning his trust. She just needs some time alone. He sits beside her and asks if she's the one responsible for the weather magic. She responds with a simple no, still unsure why he's following her. As her eyes linger on his handsome face, he asks, what is she looking at? Startled, she meets his eyes, and so does he. His gaze shifts nervously as he murmurs to himself, this is why she changed her appearance. Confused, she asks, what did he say? Now that Hazel thinks about it, Daisy and Lady did say the witch's appearance suddenly changed. It was just a few days before she possessed the body, right after receiving a treasure chest full of gold coins from her strange man. She thought it was her redrawing the witch's appearance. She wonders if the Grand Duke knows something. She asks him what his plan is. He lets her know it is none of her concern. He suddenly stands up, a perplexed look crossing his face. More importantly, what kind of cat loves water so much? He asks, pointing toward Daisy, who's happily licking and playing in the water. She hurls a towel at his face, thinking if he finds out, it's all over. When he asks what she's doing, she simply tells him to use the towel to dry himself. As he remains frozen in place, she urges him not to just stand there and promises she won't eat him. They both settle down after lighting a fire. While he dries his hair with the towel, he splashes water all over, irritating Hazel. She complains about his temper and can't help but wonder if this is the same man she saw in the forest just moments ago. How can someone like him possibly take care of children? She thinks to herself. Noticing him busy with something, she asks, what is he doing? He replies that he's grilling mushrooms because he's hungry. She protests, those are her mushrooms. He counters smugly, they grow on his land so they are his. Narrowing her eyes, she thinks, is this how she wants to play? Fine, she has her own ways. He meets her gaze and adds, most women wouldn't think of attacking a bear, right? She points out the obvious, that she is a witch. With a flick of her finger, a cake appears in her hand. The Duke eyes it, not too keen on her eating it alone. She teases him. What if he has cast a puppet spell on the cake? He asks, and what if she made him her puppet? What then? She smiles to herself, replying, then she would get to visit the Grand Duchy and meet the kids. Confused, he looks at her and says, that's all she thinks about. He informs her that the cake investigation is over and that there's nothing suspicious in it. However, he's still baffled by how she managed to bribe the children. She sighs, smiling, and offers him a slice of the cake. Why don't you see for himself? She suggests. He takes a bite, then teases, should he be grateful that he didn't turn into a frog after eating it? She, however, isn't amused and replies she doesn't do that kind of thing. He reminds her she did a few years ago. The investigation records are still in the archives rising up. He declares he wishes to get to the point he is curious about many things regarding her. He believes people do not change overnight, and it is not easy to abandon the way one has lived their whole life. He demands she tell him, why does she suddenly want to be a good witch? She forces a smile, lying straight to his face, saying that a few years ago she got really sick and it made her regret her past. So she reflected and decided to live a good life from now on, finishing the sentence with nervous giggles. He watches her with an intense gaze, calmly replying he doesn't believe her. His stare is so intense that even she feels the weight of it. Her mind drifts back to when she offered him the cake and he had quietly pulled out his own utensils. Does he really think she's going to poison him? She wonders. If he's suspicious, why come alone to see a witch? Even last time, he only brought a few knights, and now that she thinks about it, she did sense divine power radiating from him that day, though she never found the holy knight. Noticing her lost in thought, he asks, "What is she thinking so hard about?" She quickly responds, "He is here to interrogate her, isn't he?" He claims it's not an interrogation, just a few questions. He is very curious about witches. No, he corrects himself. He is curious about her. She wants to know if, once he's done questioning her, he's not planning to tie her to a stake to be executed, right? He assures her not to worry, as he is here because he has a favor to ask. Looking annoyed, she murmurs that she knew it. He looks shocked and questions whether she has clairvoyance or if he just looks like what he's going to do. She tells him it was obvious the moment he started referring to her as Miss Hazel out of nowhere. He admits she's pretty sharp anyway. She informs him that her answer to his favor is no. He looks flabbergasted, shocked that she's rejecting him without even hearing him out, and claims that it's so rude. She accuses him of being the one who's rude. Shouldn't he apologize first before asking for a favor? He blatantly questions apologize for what? She looks baffled at his audacity. She reminds him he falsely accused her of using forbidden magic. He continues to gaze at her, but in the next moment, he states them, admitting that was a false accusation and states it was wrong of him to accuse her without evidence, so he would like to apologize. She is shocked because he apologized so easily. She wonders if this favor is really that important to him. However, he then proclaims, but shouldn't she also apologize for keeping his siblings after hearing he went through hell every day? She blurts out she did not know they were his siblings. He questioned who is going to believe that? She realizes that is true. She would not believe it either. She then announces she had her own reasons, and she heard the children were being neglected. And she asks him who would try to return them to their bad parents. His eyes darken menacingly as he murmurs, "Neglect," his voice dripping with malice. She informs him that the children said they were trapped inside the house. He seems taken aback and states why would they want to live in a witch's cottage instead of a mansion. He believes it is dangerous for them outside, and reminds her that the mansion has 100 rooms, dozens of gardens, and even a lake, and is perplexed as to how they could call living there imprisonment. And is she saying he is a worse guardian than a witch? He is offended by that. She replies considering he tried to execute her in front of the children. She would not say he is a great guardian either. Though he does not refuse that, he is ready to admit and explains he completely lost his mind back then. She groans no matter how noble they are. Children need to go out and experience the world. Suddenly, she murmurs in an almost audible voice that if he is aware how much they love playing in the forest. However, his eyes reflect that he doesn't believe he has made any mistakes. He points out she might not understand, but nobles have duties benefiting their status, and even if the children enjoy themselves, they can't just live doing only what is fun. She agrees that might be true for adults, but is it necessary to set a strict limit for children? She believes they need to have a variety of experiences when they are young. She points out, just like him who as a noble knows a lot about mushrooms, right? But the same could not be said for his siblings because they couldn't tell the difference and almost ate poisonous ones. Amusement dances in his eyes as he rests his chin on his palm and murmurs, "It seems like she has raised children before." However, suddenly a sense of sadness settles around Hazel. She does not hesitate to confess yes, she did. She muses they were not her own, but she has taken care of other people's children. But she cannot go back to those days. She dismisses the thought and states anyways there is another reason why she could not easily send the children back. She lets him know they said he abandoned them. A haunting look appears on his face as he lets out what? She asks him why would they think that? She then changes the sentence agreeing that they are children so it could be just a misunderstanding, but she just wondered if they had a bad relationship with him. Noticing the palpable tension in the air, she uses her magic to summon some tea and wants him to take it. However, she stops when he admits it was a misunderstanding. But it is partly his fault too. He states to be honest, expeditions, subjugations, diplomatic missions, he has been away from the mansion for long stretches of time because of these duties, so it is not surprising for him that the kids started believing they were abandoned by him. He believes they are still too young to understand the complications of adult life. However, his top priority is his siblings' safety above everything else, so he doesn't want her to misunderstand. Hazel looks sad now that she knows the Grand Duke actually cares about his siblings a lot. A fleeting thought drifts across her mind. Maybe he's not as bad as she once believed, but it's swiftly shattered by his voice. No poison, it seems, he remarks while sipping his tea with irritating grace. She inwardly groans, seriously? However, the atmosphere shifts in an instant. His grip tightens around the tea handle. He accepts that it might sound crazy to ask a witch for this. Even the cat and dog pause, their attention fixed on them, wondering what kind of favor is it, and the Grand Duke, of all people, needs a favor. He states while he is away on another expedition. Could she temporarily be their nanny? When she remains quiet, he continues that it is almost impossible to find someone willing to be the Blaine's family's nanny. Out of the blue, she blurts out she would love to. His eyes snap open, only to find her face mere inches from his. Grabbing his hand with sudden excitement, she shakes it eagerly, repeating, she would absolutely love to. The bewildered guy urged her to calm down for a second. She is so eager that it is suspicious. He subtly draws their attention to her holding both of his hands. She looks momentarily confused. He starts to explain but then sighs and tells her to forget it. He has realized they just do not understand each other. She thinks that goes for her too. Who cares? With that, she starts dragging him along. Where to? He asks, and she beams like sunshine, responding, where else? To the Grand Duchy where the children are. He points out the rain hasn't stopped yet. She looks at the rain that is still pouring and realizes she got too excited. As she gazes at her reflection in the maid's uniform, she feels as though she has truly become a servant of the Grand Duke's household. A few hours earlier, a pile of books is tossed onto the table in front of her. Her jaw drops as she stares at it in disbelief, asking if all of this is really part of the service regulations. But the woman drops another bomb on her that they will also be conducted a test in a few hours for inspection. Looking very hesitant, she asks when she can finally meet the little ones. However, the woman sternly orders her not to refer to Lady Grant, Duchess, and Lord Grand Duke in such vulgar terms. Hazel thinks to herself, but they're just so cute. The training that followed was intense, starting from how to carry oneself and proper etiquette when addressing novels. She was also expected to receive permission from His Highness the Grand Duke, the butler of the headmate, and to report anyone she meets while out to Sir Daniel, the captain of the guard, and so on. She couldn't help but wonder, what is all this? After all the chaos, she's finally informed that she's passed the test. However, she points out among the rules, there's one rule that prohibits regular meals with the little ones. She corrects herself, the Lady Grand Duchess and Lord Grand Duke, and protests because sharing means together is the best way to form close bonds. The woman tells her that rule is a given, and also adds as an additional note, she should avoid overly sweet desserts as much as possible. The headmaid remarks, it seems Lady Grand Duchess and Lord Grand Duke have been managing their meals with sweets now, and that anyone could use such a trick. She confidently says she only let them eat freely on the first day when their children were starving. Of course, she agrees to limit it to prevent childhood obesity and tooth decay. She also adds she has got plenty of experience with feeding little wounds. The woman just turns her back on her and says it is a relief that they can communicate well and decides to show her to the room. When she shows her the room, Hazel's mouth drops open in shock. She gazes around in awe and cannot help but ask if the Grand Duke's household even provides such rooms for nannies. The woman just simply replies that the working conditions need to be excellent to attract people here. However, she states she finds such a large and lavish room uncomfortable, and that she would rather sleep in her own little cabin. She thinks, being left alone in a large space, she doesn't like it anymore. The hard maid sternly asks her if she has already forgotten the work rules regarding outings. Hazel replies not to worry, she will follow the rules strictly. The woman mutters if that is the case, it is good, but then suspiciously questions, did not she bring any of her belongings? All Hazel can do is put on a big smile and promise her to bring them later. The woman tosses the maid's uniform at her, telling her to get dressed and come out immediately, as she needs to start working right away. She instructs her to head to the kitchen once she is changed, and the chef mentioned they need her help. Hazel is shocked and inquires why the chef would need her, but the door snaps shut with a thud and the head maid is already on her merry way. She decides to get changed then. Daniel asks the Duke if he has lost his mind. A smirk tugs at his lips as the Duke levels him with a glare and retorts that asking the Grand Duke if he has lost his mind only shows that Daniel of Arwen Marquisate isn't in his right mind either. Daniel narrows his eyes at the Grand Duke. He then lashes out at him, demanding to know why did he bring a witch instead of a nanny. Outside the door, the maids are trembling in fear, wondering if something is going on with His Highness the Grand Duke. The atmosphere is too tense that she cannot even step in. The other maid mutters not to even ask and then proceeds to tell her that the Grand Duke suddenly brought a young woman on a white horse, and the servants were all in an uproar. But surprisingly, upon closer look, it turned out to be the man-eating witch from the Black Forest. And to top it off, he wants to make her the nanny. She remarks this as desperation. Daniel points out there are already rumors spreading that His Highness the Grand Duke has been bewitched by the witch. The Grand Duke counters, and what does he think? Does it seem that way to him as well? Daniel states no, not at the moment, but perhaps his holy power is insufficient and he might be sensing it wrong. The Grand Duke points out no, it's not insufficient. It is very much enough to monitor the witch. He's taken aback and blurts out a what? The Grand Duke tells him to listen carefully. He declares he is excluded from this subjugation. Daniel looks shocked and wants to know why. He is offended that he is leaving him behind for such a perilous beast hunt. He points out, aside from the brief time he spent in the Holy Knight's Order, he has been by his side, protecting him since childhood. And what mission could possibly be more important than that? As he begins to protest, the Grand Duke cuts him off by ordering him to monitor the wage. He stops, but then a smile appears on his face as he realizes this is His Highness' plan, and with the power of a Holy Knight, he can certainly suppress the witch's magic. The Grand Duke states exactly. He is quick to catch on. He further adds, as he knows there's nothing more important to him than protecting his siblings, and the witch is just a leash to use while he's away on the expedition. He states once he returns, he will simply release her. Daniel sighs in relief that he will drive her away once he is back and admits that puts him at ease. He says he will consider what happens after that, but there is something strange about that witch. Daniel quickly panics and asks what in what way. The Grand Duke assures him it's not that she's dangerous, but still. He trails off, recalling the earlier moment he asked her why did not she ask for any conditions. She was confused and asked what conditions? He stated like compensation or anything like that, but she just smiled and told him she doesn't need money. He was taken aback. Daniel asks so what was he exactly referring to? He snaps out of his trance and mutters no, it's nothing. All he can think is that she is a strange person. Meanwhile, Hazel is searching for the kitchen but doesn't know the way. She ends up outside the Grand Duke's study and wonders if it's nearby. Suddenly, her eyes sharpen, and she turns to someone, asking, "Who are they?" She gasps when she finds Daniel standing in front of her. She asks him again, "Who is he?" Then it dawns on her he's the one who took her carrot cake. He asks did not anyone tell her not to wander around the Grand Duke's residence carelessly? She replies yes, she is aware. But she was called by the head chef, and she didn't get any guidance. Sighing in exasperation, he decides to guide her. She thanks him but wants to know what the knight's name is. He states Daniel. He is the captain of the guards and the vice commander of Blaine Knights. She states oh, it seems like he has worked with His Highness for a long time, hasn't he? He looks offended and tells her to call him Sir Daniel. He is not someone that she can casually address. He states he has served the Grand Duke longer and closer than anyone else, so it would be wise not to think of doing anything foolish. He is not her knight. She pouts thinking he's so cold, but then she smiles, thinking he still seems like a loyal and good person. He lets her know he will be watching her closely. She casually retorts, "Sure, go ahead." Looking so done with her, he pushes a door open and tells her this is the kitchen. She's confused as to why he seems annoyed. She is momentarily surprised by how huge the kitchen is. But then she tells herself with hundreds of people working at the Grand Duke's residence, it makes sense. Someone addresses her as the witch nanny. She thinks the rumors have already spread. A chef looks down at her and asks if that is the new nanny. Daniel states yes. He has heard he requested to meet the new nanny, Hazel. He says for the meal tonight, the Grand Duke asked about what the young prince and princess would like for dinner. She is shocked and wonders if he told him to ask her. She lets him know the young prince and princess are picky eaters, but if he mixes their favorite ingredients, like in beef stew, they will eat it all. He makes a face and mutters that commoners dish boiled in water beef stew. She states yes. He knows it well. She wonders what is wrong with him. Did she offend his pride by giving him a good tip? He points at the kitchen and states since she knows so well, why doesn't she go to that empty counter and make a dish? And that dinner starts in 20 minutes, so she has enough time. She nearly screams for 20 minutes in shock. Despite thinking it might bruise his pride, she still believes it's a good idea. With a casual flick of her finger, she declares she'll handle it. As everything starts coming together, everyone is left speechless, their eyes fixed on the scene as Daniel panicking, asks, "Wait, what? Where did she get this from?" She casually replies, "From home." He tells her she cannot bring external ingredients into the kitchen without inspection and asks if she didn't read the work manual. She counters it wasn't in the nanny manual. He states, "Well, that is true," but he looks confused, so she states how would she know? He just ends up telling her from now on she should make sure external ingredients go through inspection before entering the kitchen. She replies yes, she will. This time he inspects himself. Hazel realizes it is a reagent for poison testing and wonders if the Grand Duke residents have a wizard too. Because the reagents are supplied by the Wizards Guild, Daniel states at the Grand Duke's residence, both ingredients and reagents are only sourced from trusted suppliers. She blurts out, "Wow, that must be really expensive," and offers to bring some from her home. She has a lot if he wants it. He flatly says no need. After he's done with inspection, he declares there is no poison. She jumps saying, "Oh yes, awesome." After that, she decides to prepare dinner now. As everyone gathers for dinner, she watches from a distance, surprised to see the kids. She almost shouted. Looking at their faces, she wonders if they've really come to eat. The atmosphere feels tense. She is curious when they'll let her introduce herself, but then thinks if they realize she's here, they might stop eating and get distracted. Glancing at the food, she thinks it looks too fancy compared to her dish, which stands out in a bad way. Feeling dejected, she worries the Grand Duke will notice right away, but she's relieved to know they'll be saving that dish for last. Her eyes meet the Duke's, and he freezes, staring at her intensely. Realizing she's not supposed to be there, she tries to run away. Daniel asks what's wrong with her, and she wonders why he's staring at her like that. His gaze lands on her food, and she cannot help but think, if he's going to eat it, why is he measuring it out so carefully? Is he suddenly checking for poison? When he takes the first bite, his eyes widen. She thinks, "See, it's delicious." Meanwhile, Daniel watches her with a concerned look, as if she's served them poison instead of food. In the next moment, Daniel attempts to step inside, eager to check the food with the reagent once more. However, she pulls him back, insisting that she just got overly excited for nothing. The Grand Duke then orders the maids to serve that dish to the young prince and princess, requesting a little extra for himself as well. She watches with bated breath as the kids prepare to taste her dish. They both take their first bites and immediately start asking for more. They're so cute, she thinks, beaming with pride. Luna then remarks, "This is a satisfying meal after such a long time," directing her praise to the chef. The head chef, however, has his eyes closed and is looking to the side, as if he can't bear to meet her gaze. He reluctantly reveals that he did not actually prepare that dish. In response, she requests that this person be the one to cook her meals from now on. Meanwhile, Hazel peeks in from the doorway, noticing that the chef doesn't seem happy and wanting to apologize. She hadn't meant to take his job. The Grand Duke sits there, a smile on his face as he listens to their exchange. He turns to Luna, telling her not to talk with her mouth full, and then reminds Luca to chew with his mouth closed. However, Hazel feels a bit confused. What does the Grand Duke really think of her food, she wonders. Wouldn't he say something about it? However, she reminds herself she was prepared for this. Just then, the head chef announces that now that they've finished their meal, he will bring out the dessert, which makes the children visibly excited. As they gaze at the dessert, Luna's eyes widen in astonishment as she notices the cookies standing upright. Hazel, from a distance, is using her magic to make the cookies stand up, and it suddenly dawns on her. It's Hazel. The kids' jaws drop in astonishment. Luca even looks a bit teary-eyed as they rush toward her and wrap their arms around her tightly. They exclaim they missed her so much. They start crying, so she soothes them, not wanting them to cry. The Grand Duke calls for them, telling them they have not finished eating yet. He tells them if they are not back in their seats within 10 seconds, no desserts for them today. But they still aren't listening. Clutching her dress tightly, Daniel reaches out to take them away, while she calls them her little nuts and reminds them that they need to pay attention. Daniel thinks that nickname again. He apologizes to the Grand Duke that he has been correcting her, but Grand Duke simply replies it is fine. He knows it is hard to get through to her too. He then orders Hazel to wait outside until the meal is over, and he has something to discuss with her. She is flabbergasted thinking that he's talking like this in front of the kids. The one who really needs etiquette lessons is the Grand Duke. Later, Hazel gazes at her reflection, thinking she was wondering what he wanted to say, and it turns out he told her not to wear this outfit. She whispers to herself she was just getting used to it. He strictly told her from now on she should make sure to wear something noticeable even from far away. She thought to herself, what kind of outfit is even that? The wardrobe is empty for now, but she figures this will make her job easier. According to the nanny rulebook, there's no guidelines stating she can't connect an outside cabin to the mansion, right? Just then, her pets emerge from the cupboard. The dog questions her, having been waiting for an update, asking why she's so late and what happened. She replies that she'll explain everything slowly from now on. The dog then asks if she negotiated. Confused, she wonders what she means by that. She clarifies her pay. She responds, "Pay for what?" She adds, "Did he get down on his knees and beg for forgiveness?" She happily exclaims she did get an apology. The poor dog looks like she is about to cry. Her master is such a pushover. The cat asks where are the little ones? Hazel exclaims she read them a story and tucked them in. Now that she speaks about it, she realizes she should take about 2 and tells them to wake up early tomorrow and go see little ones. In the bath, she thinks it was such a hectic day, but she's glad she made that door connecting to her cabin. She is aware Lady and Daisy really missed the little nuts too. Suddenly, she recalls she's pretty sure one of the mansion's rules is no tuxedo cats allowed. At that moment, a voice startles her. She rushes out in full panic mode, wondering what it is and what is happening, only to find her pets and the little ones gathered together in her room. The children want to sleep with her, saying it is scary to sleep alone. She says all right, though Luca and Luna's room is way bigger than her. Then she declares they should all sleep here together tonight. The children are visibly excited. They all are curled into each other, sleeping on the bed, and Hazel is thankful for the first time that the bed is big. She states they are her little lady and her little lord, but the children do not want to be called that by her. They both hug her tightly, and Luca demands to be comforted by her because they felt hurt while she was gone. She then calls them her little nuts and apologizes to both of them. She gently caresses his hair, and Luna insists that her hair deserves some attention too. She admits to them she was going to come to them, but their brother wouldn't let her. However, she believes that was actually the right thing to do. Luna asks why. She points out that because it is dangerous, they could have ended up running into bad people, so they shouldn't ever think about running away again. They both promise they won't run away anymore. Luca adds now that Hazel lives with them in their house. Sadness crosses her face as she realizes they still don't know she's only here temporarily. And how should she tell them? She just tells them to go to bed early for now and she will make omelets tomorrow. With that, they all fall into a peaceful sleep. On the other hand, the head chef curses in frustration, glaring at the food. This is just a basic commoner recipe, he thinks, bewildered. But how can it have such a devilish flavor? Clenching his fist in anger, he becomes determined to uncover the secret behind it. Just then, Daniel rushes into the kitchen, apologizing for the late interruption. Instantly, the chef's demeanor shifts. He straightens up as if he wasn't just on the brink of an epic meltdown moments ago. He's worried about the kids and asks him they did not come here, right? The chef replies no, he has not seen them around here at all. He worries, thinking this is bad. Where could they have gone? He instantly orders to deploy more guards to the garden. The Duke stands amidst the chaos, completely still, but his eyes blaze with fury as he thinks about the witch, wondering how she could be so careless with the children. The next morning, he demands she explains herself as she stands there, looking like she wishes to bolt away. He asks her, with barely controlled violence shimmering underneath, that if she's aware how much chaos ensued when the maids found the kids' room empty at dawn, and if she has any idea how much of a mess it was. He states it is a good thing that he tracked them down before things got worse. He points out not only that, but on top of that, she slept with the noble children in the same bed and put his cat and dog there too. He demands to know if she has any idea how outrageous that is. He bangs his fists on the table, asking if she can even imagine how frustrated he must have been. She meekly says, but there is no rule against it. He snaps of course there wouldn't be, and sarcastically says he commends her for knowing the rules so well though. However, he then picks up a book, commenting that he can see she follows the rules without exception. Since she adheres to them so strictly, he's come up with a solution of his own. There's an evil glint in his eyes as he picks up the pen. She murmurs okay. He pauses. He thought she would have more to say. He wonders if it's an awk, really it? As she reads the new rules he has set, she casually mentions that she'll be borrowing the pen. With a flick of her magic, the pen soars toward her. She then remarks on the ban on tuxedo cards, pointing out that it was likely implemented because of Daisy's invasion of the Grand Duchy, right? Making a cute face, she says she was wondering if he could lift that. He states fine, let's do that. Why does he feel like he's the one who's getting caught up in this? And then she makes another request. Can she make a garden? His hand freezes in midair, and he gives her a deadpan look. He points out, surely she has not forgotten that this is a temporary contract. She counters, but she will still be leaving the crops behind even after the contract ends. His posture is rigid, as he states no. He cannot permit her to mess around with the Grand Duchy any further. She states, but right now the young lady and lord's weekly schedules are just too packed. Pointing out at their age, playing is learning. Besides, they enjoy the vegetables they harvest together so much. She also declares today she is planning on making an omelette with carrots she picked some time ago, and would he like some too? With serious looks, he replies yes. She beams at him and tells him to write a permission form then. His sighs finally relenting. She runs out of there after that. He then relaxes himself in his seat and takes a deep breath. He thinks what a strange woman. Now he sees why she's not burdened by Luna and Luca. She has a mix of Luna's fierceness and Luca's bright energy. He then thinks no, she has even more than those two, but then again, she follows rules and regulations without question. He wonders, is this actually the only way he can keep his younger siblings in check? On the other hand, Hazel greets Daniel, joined by Luca and Luna, as they all prepare for their farming tasks, equipped with hats and tools. Daniel looks like he wants to roll his eyes and asks, what is this? The young lord must go off to his stamina training lesson now. She states the thing is, how about they train his stamina through farming today? Since there's now a garden in the greenhouse, Daniel reminds her did not he only give her permission to make the garden? She cannot go there and request her to head over to the training hall. Both the children glare at him, looking like they would be ready to attack him with their tools if he did not stop blocking their way. He raises his hand in surrender and gives up. In exchange, he requests for them to follow their schedule. Later, the trio is planting broccoli. The farmer, who looks very nervous, is greeted by Hazel, who tells him she will be in his care for today. They all plant different things throughout the day. Daniel stands in a distance and watches them with a little bit of surprise and worry, commenting that noble children are doing field work. But of course, nothing escapes Hazel's ears. She glances at him and states, there's no such thing as useless knowledge, Sir Daniel. And through this, the children will grow to understand the lives of the manor's workers. She believes it is not an experience that can be learned by sitting around studying. Their conversation is interrupted when Luca shouts there is a worm, and they all freak out. After they are done for the day, she gazes at the work and exclaims they finished so early. Nailed it, she means how marvelous. Luca exclaims he already wants to eat broccoli with Hayes and Luna, and Lulu too. Hazel then realizes his toy has become so dirty. She asks herself why did she just leave it be? She should have cleaned it, and decides to clean it after they return to their rooms. She then gives them a pop quiz. Broccoli, potato, and green onions. She wants them to read out the names of the crops they planted today. The first name they pronounce correctly. Daniel steps in, asking them, what about the other one? Luca replies that it is onion. Danielle smiles at him and states, yeah, that's right. He immediately feels uneasy under the scrutinizing gaze of Hazel and Luna. Hazel then states it is a fun gardening activity that the kids enjoy along with a reading lesson, and asks for his opinion. He clears his throat before replying, well, it does not seem that bad. She then realizes the time and offers Daniel to try some of the sandwiches she packed. When Daniel gazes at it with a look of conflict, Luna asks him is he being picky with his food. Luca mumbles with a mouthful of food, declaring that it's delicious. He mutters fine, he will eat it. But when he takes the first bite, he groans in pleasure, thinking it is so delicious. She says, but she was just wondering he must be busy. So is it all right for him to follow them around like this? He retorts it's all thanks to someone. She realizes he looks like he is hiding something and wonders if he came here to avoid working with the Grand Duke. She tells him she's grateful to him for watching over the kids, but what if Grand Duke catches him and he gets in trouble? Just then, an intimidating voice fills the air. Get caught doing what? Grand Duke asks. It turns out the Grand Duke is right behind them. She looks startled and asks if he has eaten yet. If not, would he like to have a meal with them? Meal? He repeats. She replies yes, she has one left over. He glares at the sandwich as if it personally offended him, thinking he has already eaten, so why is it that he wants to accept it? Just as he raises his hand to grab the sandwich, Daniel points out that he just returned from the luncheon. His hand pauses mid-air before dropping back to his side as he mutters, that's right. Just then, the children come running to her, asking for more. She's surprised, but then gives them one sandwich, telling them to share it. He stands there, his eyes fixed on the sandwich. But then he clears his throat and looks away, stating anyway he came to visit the children and wants to know why are they dressed like farmers. Hazel reminds him he was the one who permitted them to decorate the garden, and by getting their hands in the dirt like this, they will strengthen their immune system. He counters, "Is that so? In that case, he will consult with their attending physician." With that, he declares he will be off now, snatching the sandwich from Daniel's hand on his way. Daniel murmurs that is his. He only had one bite. The captain of the guards and vice commander of Blaine Knights looks like he's on the verge of breaking down in tears. On the other hand, the Grand Duke aggressively munches on the sandwich as Hazel's face flashes through his mind. He cannot help but curse. His thoughts are getting weirder day by day. 3 days until Elliot's expedition. Daniel informs him there was nothing out of the ordinary. He asks were there no suspicious movements even after he followed her around for 3 whole days. He replies, although they were not suspicious, there were movements from her side. He reveals on the 2nd day she went to the marketplace near the Grand Duchy during nap time. It seemed suspicious to him, so he tailed her, but she only bought a handful of gifts for the young lady and lord before coming back. He's shocked because that was the day when he found the witch and forcibly paid her. He thinks she returned that money straight to the children. Even though the kids are spoiled with so many things, they won't even be able to finish using it in this lifetime. Daniel then continues that she has a likable appearance that seems to enchant people, so he should be especially wary around her. Daniel says the number of people the witch has won over in the Grand Duchy has been increasing, even yesterday while she was patrolling the kitchen area. As he was passing by the kitchen door, he stopped when he heard some voices. The head chef was begging Miss Hazel to sell the recipe to her, and that he would keep this a secret from His Grace, and he would give her a substantial payment in return. He wanted to know if she was using portions like the rumor said. If not, he would offer her a generous tuition fee. She blurted out it wasn't any of that, and she did not need the money either. Daniel was shocked because the head chef would bow his head to a witch as a chef with decades of experience. Hazel offered to tell him for free. She told him all the details and even cooked in front of him so he could learn. She also told him she thought he was a scary person at first, but now she thinks he's quite admirable, seeing as he's trying to learn from someone as unworthy as her. He said she was not unworthy at all, and he could also admit that he is quite admirable though. Daniel conveys all the story to him and states he even witnessed such sights. Elliot states, does he think he will start enjoying that witch's presence because of that? And that is the most laughable thing he has heard today. He thinks just thinking about her makes him freeze up. Also at the thought of that ham, cheese, and egg sandwich. He's never had much of an appetite, let alone pure gluttony. Her image flashes through his mind, but the next second she knocks on his door and enters hesitantly, making him think if he's hallucinating. When she sees Daniel there, she thinks he must be busy and excuses herself, but he stops her, saying the captain was just about to leave, and he thinks to himself, speak of the devil, and the devil comes. He asks her what brought her here. A huge smile blooms on her face, and she replies she wanted to give him a gift. He is stunned. She believes the first paycheck should be used to buy gifts for the people she is grateful to. He asks, he's someone she's thankful to? She replies yes, she prepared a silver one that would suit him well. She also adds it's not that she did not get in the gold because she did not have enough money, she swears. He's surprised to find a necklace. He thinks it's silver instead of gold. Now he can identify poison. That is good. However, there does not seem to be anything suspicious either. He thinks their relationship was pretty bad, and now she's being thankful. Seriously. He startles when she suddenly leans in closer, urging him to open it. With a bright smile, she promises he'll like it. He flinches as she moves even closer, attempting to show him how to open it. However, Daniel's earlier words echo in his mind about the growing number of people the witch has won over in the Grand Duchy. Suddenly, he lashes out, demanding to know what trick she's pulling, which causes her to jump in fright. Looking surprised, she replies that she was only trying to open it for him. He glares at her and thinks to himself, she definitely has a face that people would find likable, but that doesn't mean she can win over his favor. He sternly warns her to refrain from approaching him without any permission. She says with a sigh, oh yes, he is scared of her, right? And she will be careful from now on. He objects. It's not that he is scared. However, he trails off when his gaze lands on the necklace and on the picture of his siblings. He asks her if she drew this herself. She replies yes, she used to do illustrations. He sighs, saying well done. At first he thought she shrunk his siblings and put them inside the locket. Confused, she murmurs what is he even talking about? He continues to look at the picture as he remarks she really drew them exactly as they are. She says she thought he's probably going to miss them during the expedition. He thanks her for the thoughtful gift and says he will be able to hear the kids squawking on the expedition too. She then looks flustered as she admits actually this is a bribe. He freezes in shock. She tells him she wanted to get along with him. He remembers Daniel's warning that she seems to be enchanting people, so he should be especially wary around her. He wonders if she is trying to enchant him with her kind-hearted words. She reminds him that the kids don't know that her contract will end once he comes back from the expedition. He points out if they knew, she would not be able to handle Luna. She fidgets with her fingers and says even so, they will be hurt once they find out later on because they believe she will be living here from now on. She adds in a whisper, well, she's not against it either. His eyes harden as he thinks so this was what she meant by getting along well. He tells her not to think about trying to use the children as a trick to prolong her contract. She blurts out it's not that, but he cuts her sharply off that not a word about this to the children, he's warning her. He then tells her he doesn't want any bribes from her and wants her to take it back. She freaks out and blurts out it was just a joke. She really gave that to him so he would be able to look at the kids. She quickly runs away, saying she'll go put them to sleep. He gazes down at the necklace once more, feeling it is bothersome. However, he firmly believes that people do not change overnight, so he cannot entrust the children to someone with a long history of crime, even if everything appears peaceful at the moment. Hazel tells the little ones that it is time to wash up and go to bed. They both become surprised, asking if that's true. Hazel notices Ruru, realizing she decided to wash her because she has gotten so dirty, and asks Luca if he wishes to take a bath with Ruru today. He responds no, stating that it has Mom's smell, so he does not want to. She thinks that back in elementary school, 2nd grade, when her mom left, she filled the fridge with side dishes as if it were her last gift. She could not eat any of them before they went bad. Her grandma that came too late ended up throwing away the side dishes. Only then did she cry for the first time, asking her grandma to not do that. She decides to just give up on washing Ruru. She hugs the little ones as Luca asks her if she's crying. She is aware that these children are still at a young age, thinking how much they must miss their mom. She tells them if they want anything then they should tell her right away, thinking that she might be presumptuous, but she wants to love these children as much as their parents would. Luca has something that he wishes for and he tells it to her secretly. She mentions they will ask the Grand Duke tomorrow. The Grand Duke is sitting on the table for dinner. He seems pretty annoyed as he questions why isn't she here yet? Hazel Wright then appears with the kids and says hello to him. Luna seems sleepy as the Duke says working in the fields makes her sleepy even if she takes a nap. She responds it is not that, but because the Bible study class is incredibly boring. He responds even though the teacher from the papacy came despite being so busy. Hazel is getting the soup ready to serve as the Duke smells it, realizing this does not seem like a chef's soup. As when it is time to eat, he finds it delicious. He ponders the witch's cooking feels like a quiet, warm fireplace, melting the frozen body and mind on a cold winter day. Right then he's startled as he questions why are these kids so quiet. He looks at them and notices they are staring at him. He is aware that normally they would be making smacking noises or dropping their spoon a few times. The moment he grabs his glass, they do too, to which he wonders if they are imitating him now. He wonders what in the world is going on. Right then, Hazel points at him to be quiet as he wonders, did she just tell him to shush? He wonders what is she up to, and thinks that he should try and see if they can imitate him eating Brussels sprouts too. Both Luca and Luna became shocked as they both cannot eat it. After thinking for a while, Luna takes a bite to which the Duke is totally shocked, not believing that she actually ate it. Luca also eats it after. Luna then mentions that she won. The Duke ponders that he cannot believe she won and wonders what are these kids doing. Hazel claps for them, mentioning that Luna and Luca are amazing. The dude gives her a side eye, to which she flinches. He goes to her and asks her what did she do, to which she responds it's a contest. He asks her what does she mean by that. She tells him it is a contest about who can imitate the Grand Duke better. He questions if he and his children are clowns. She tells him that is not what it is. She mentions that children usually learn by imitation. She thought it would be more effective to learn table manners by watching and imitating rather than teaching verbally. She also tells him moreover the Grand Duke table manners are so flawless that they make a good model, don't they? He agrees with her, stating that there is no better model than him, so he guesses it is fine. She then tells him right after the meal, His Grace needs to choose the winner, and the prize should be given by His Grace as well. She questions how about it is reading a storybook tonight. He tells her this is the most brazen nanny that he has ever seen, asking is not that her job. She mentions that he is leaving tomorrow, and she hoped he'd make good memories with the children before he goes. She asks him to please make sure to ask the children what they want. He tells her all right and sits back questioning if everyone has finished their meals. They'd both respond yes. He then asks if they should then decide the winner of tonight's dinner. He states that he liked how seriously both of them participated in the contest. He calls out to Luna first, telling her that today's excellent behavior of eating what she dislikes was a great example for the noble children of the Empire. And then he calls out to Lucas, telling him that his bravery in tasting things he dislikes without dropping his fork, even once today, was truly commendable. So since it is hard to distinguish between the participants today, they will inevitably declare both of them as winners. Both of them become really happy. Luna asks what about the price before she respectfully questions how they should commemorate the glory of victory. Hazel thinks that Luna is indeed sharp. The Duke tells them a price should be given and asks what does the Grand Duke and Duchess want. He also makes it clear that chocolate, sleeping in and skipping classes are not allowed. Luna asks Luca to tell her quickly. The Duke wonders if they decided on something already. Luca tells him what he wishes for, as his Duke wonders could it be that he found out about the witch's contract. The Duke is totally taken aback by his wish. He is totally shocked, finding it unbelievable as all they want as a reward is to play with them. Even more, it is not even something grand, just dropping some blankets over furniture. He wonders why Luca was so cautious when saying such a trivial thing. Luna tells him that he should play dungeon exploration now. He'll be the knight, and she will be the commander. Luca states he is going to be the witch. Luna tells Luca that he's a man, so he should be the wizard, even though Luca wishes to be a witch. Luna then starts attacking as they play the game. His Duke thinks to himself that it is humiliating to be like this in front of the nanny. But he is happy that Luca keeps coming to him. And Luna keeps putting herself on his back. He is aware it has been such a long time since he had a happy moment like this. The kids felt exhausted and fell asleep. And with a blanket as he thinks when they sleep they look like little angels. He thinks he needs to handle some work and get some rest before heading out on the expedition. Hazel calls out to him from behind, telling him that the children's wishes are not that much right. He mentions, to be honest, he was surprised. He thought they would not enjoy spending time with him anymore. She tells them, but they really do like spending time with him. They just understand how busy he is, so they hold back. She also tells him today, while he was playing with them, they kept glancing at the door and the clock. They also notice he was checking the time immediately. She questions if he knows they were watching him closely. He remembers they even asked him if he is busy, and if he is, that they are going to sleep soon so he can go ahead and work. He mentions that for today. He wanted to be a good older brother to the kids. Hazel questions if he has ever asked them what they want to do. He responds that she cannot just let them do whatever they want. He has to raise them properly. She mentions that children need to grow up properly. That is right, but they also need to be loved. He calls out to her and tells her there is no one in this world who loves those children more than he does. He also mentions he does not understand why he needs to defend himself to a mere nanny who has only been here a short while. She tells him she has a marvelous piece of work that she thinks would be perfect for the children's playroom. She questions if he would like to buy it. He is confused as he questions why is she bringing that up suddenly, stating that it is absurd, but then tells her to show it to him, and then he'll decide. She questions, can he see it? It is in her head. He is totally dumbfounded as he asks her what is she talking about. He heard she used to be an old woman asking if she's going senile now. She's calling something as a masterpiece without even drawing it. She tells him some people also insist on love without expressing it. She steps towards him and tells him when he returns, she hopes he will make sure to include time in His Highness' busy schedule to spend it with the children. During that time, he should forget about work and be solely a brother and guardian to the children. She opens his locket and tells him she would like to cast a luck spell for him, but she knows he would not like it. She hopes he returns safely under the protection of the gods. He remains silent after a while. It is the night time. As she is coming down the stairs, she ponders that she is relieved to have said everything she wanted to say. It is a relief that the Duke took it seriously. She smells something as she realizes it is the Duke's favorite soup. She understands that the Duke's kitchen is still working at this hour. She thinks of something. She thinks about when the chef stated even though they made it side by side and identically, how come the taste is so different? She told him that cannot be. However, their chefs also acknowledged that in Miss Hazel's stew, there's something in it no one else can replicate. She thinks to herself that it does seem odd. Although she has been a cook for 45 years, her skills have improved significantly since coming here. She wonders if it could be the witch's ability. She thinks that she cannot say for sure as long as everyone enjoys the meal. That is what matters to her. She felt really proud when she saw everyone sharing her cooking with pleasure, the kitchen staff and Lord Daniel too. At first everyone was wary of her, but she wished she could have continued working here. She thinks maybe eventually they would have gotten used to her since they all seem to like her cooking. She thinks that the people of the Duke's household seem really nice. She decides she should go check the kitchen at the same time in the kitchen. Daniel states it is definitely not magic, as everyone finds it impossible, asking if someone add a portion or drug. The chef asks everyone to be quiet, stating that he watched the cooking process without taking his eyes off it for a moment. He tells Danielle that His Highness the Duke is preparing for his departure tomorrow. If there's anything harmful in the food, he's worried about the safety of everyone. Daniel is aware that magic usually leaves a trace, like a fingerprint. It feels like there's something other than magic, a nostalgic warmth. He tells them that there is nothing dangerous at all. Since his concerns should be resolved, he will be on his way. Right then he is questioned if there's any black magic that turns things into frogs. Daniel ponders, unless someone is a fool, they would not use such obvious tricks in cooking. Daniel opens the door as Hazel is standing there. She gasps. They both look at each other as she apologizes to him, telling him that she was not trying to overhear. She states that she just came to check the ingredients for tomorrow. He seems pretty taken aback before he tells her to come in. He stares at her as he notices that she's crying. He is really taken aback. She apologizes to him and runs away. They state that it seems like she heard everything, but the maid mentions at least she left quickly. The maid questions, what if she had turned them all into frogs or something? The chef calls off to her and tells her to watch her mouth. She apologizes to him. He seems pretty stressed as he mentions he did something foolish. The cat asks Hazel what is wrong. She responds that she is just tired. The cat is aware that she is lying. Hazel responds that she is telling the truth. The cat starts licking her, to which Hazel tells her to stop as it hurts. Hazel hugs her, knowing that at least she still have her. She knows that the Grand Duke must have had a good reason for bringing her here. He would not do anything to harm his siblings. She is aware that people were kind to her simply because they trusted the Grand Duke, but even the Grand Duke doesn't really trust her. Even when she gives gifts or cook delicious meals, she gets suspected. She decides to go and get a drink. She tried to stay clean since this is supposed to be a wholesome fairy tale. She gets up. She ponders that she is sure she hits some strawberry wine in the cupboard at the cabin. She looks at herself in the mirror, wondering why did she have to be reincarnated as a villainess. She finds it really unfair. Someone knocks on the door as she opens it and finds Harold turn and apologizes to her. She tells him it is okay, and she understands as the head chef he was just worried about the Grand Duke's family. He tells her that is not all. No matter what he did, he could not keep up with her. That is why he was looking for a reason to blame it on. She even said he was cool, but instead he acted shamefully. She asks him to lift his head and tells him that she accepts his apology, and to be honest, she has also wondered if there is a power she is not aware of. He tells her that she's the one who is truly generous and amazing. However, it would not feel right to be simply forgiven. She asks him what does he mean, to which he tells her he has a gift for her and asks her to accept it. He gives her something as she tells him he really does not need to give her anything. She does not like feeling indebted. She takes it and thanks him. She wonders, no matter how she looks at it, this thing looks like an animal's, before he tells her it is a snake's leg. He states that in his youth he traveled across the entire empire looking for rare ingredients and managed to acquire it. It is a treasure that only appears once a century. She becomes shocked. She asks him if he is giving her something that valuable. He responds that he is a chef is not he, but since she is a witch, he thought she would find better use for it. Besides, she seems to be blessed by the god of cooking as well. He then says since it is getting late, he will be off now. She wishes him goodbye before she asks him to wait. She tells him they should cook together again in the kitchen tomorrow. He tells her that he will be waiting. She pondered. Stairs still a long way to go, but if she keeps moving forward step by step like this, someday for sure they'll see the real her. The next morning appears as Luca and Luna wishes for his brother to come back safely. His Grand Duke stares at them with a confused expression. He tells them this is not like them, as usually Luna would throw sarcastic remarks like, why doesn't he just not come back? And he's always outside, and Luca would be bawling his eyes out, causing an uproar in the house. He seems worried by their behavior, wondering what is going on today. Same. Do not forget to bring them back presents. Luca also asks him for it. His Grand Duke questions him. What does he want for a gift? But Luca tells him it is not that. All he wants is when he gets back, they should play again. His Grand Duke stares at them for a while before he warmly smiles. He tells them he promises he will do that, and also states while he is gone, before he gets eye signal from Hazel, asking him if he's really going to do it. His doe grabbed onto Luna's hand and tells her to listen carefully. He mentions that during his absence from the estate, she will be the head of the Grand Duchy. This makes her really shocked. He mentions that she is the lord of the Grand Duchy. She seems pretty taken aback an hour before setting off the Grand Duke. The Grand Duke told Hazel that he cannot do it as Luna is still young. She wishes for him to do it, as she mentions she's not telling him to give her the duchy really, but consider it as an honor. He questioned why should he do that. He knew that Luna is even though she is smart. However, she cannot inherit the title. Because of the pointless conflicts, the granting of titles to women was abolished. He told her that could not happen as she still stated that Luna likes to act like an adult. He saw it at the match last night, didn't he? Her Highness will be more mature while he is away from the duchy, and she is sure that Luna will be proud that he believes in her. He tells Luna that it is in her hands to protect her family, so she should not forget that responsibility and keep her family's honor, so that the great princess, as the lord of the house, serves as an example for all. She is totally determined as she responds okay. The Duke ponders he was nagging her to get into trouble, but she tells him, in a world where conspiracy and trickery are rampant, she will straighten up the great song like a lord. Luca is totally dumbfounded as he knows this is a big statement. His Duke wonders how can she be so good at talking, then kisses them and tells them that he will be back soon. Luna wishes for him to be safe. He knows when he get back from this one, he is sure he will spend more time with the kids, so that the children can feel his love, just like the witch told him. As after he left, Luna is acting very differently. Hazel tells her that it is nice to see her being mature today. Luna man shuns. No matter how hungry one is, the owner of the Grand Duchy should run around with grace. Hazel is aware that she really nailed the role. Luna also tells her she would like to discuss the distribution of chocolate this week. The Grand Lord has all the rights of the Great Lord. He asked her not to use it to fill her personal greed, right? Then she questions, why don't they give everyone a piece of chocolate to celebrate becoming the Lord? Hazel becomes really shocked as she realizes this means not only the Grand Duke and his people, Luna and Luca will eat chocolate too. She calls out to Luna and tells her that she's such a genius. Daniel wishes that Hazel focuses on her job. Despite all that commotion, the honorary position was effective. Children's unexpected behavior has decreased significantly over the past few days. However, there is one thing that has not improved at all. Hazel asks them if they shall go to the hut for lunch. Luna mentions that she loves having lunch at Hazel Hut. Hazel tells her it is only until His Highness comes. Luna asks Hazel if she can take the cat out with her. Daniel steps in stating that as expected, he is not getting used to this place and without the permission of His Highness. Hazel asks him that this place inside the Grand Barrier, right? Regardless of that, he mentions, but he still cannot. Luna calls out to him and asks him is not he also sneaking in with them? He seems pretty confused, to which she questions is not she right, and one thing that has not gotten any better is vitriol. Hazel tells Luna sarcasm is a bad thing. No questions. Why is that the case? And tells Hazel that his Duke does it too. Hazel ponders to herself that she really needs to talk to his Duke about his language habits when he gets back. Daniel tells Luna that she will never be lost. Anyone can tell that she is Elios' sister. She asks him what does he mean, to which he responds it is a compliment, and what is the problem with that? Hazel ponders that Sir Daniel is speaking comfortably with the kids, and that makes her happy. Luca calls out to herself and tells her today she was eating rice right. She was caught in the leftover cold rice as a late-night snack. Since they have tried it once, they always ask for fried rice. She tells him all right and asks him to wait a little bit. She states if you add a lot of chopped vegetables and sliced ham, the kids will be able to eat more deliciously. She prepares the dish. She was cooking Korean food secretly by herself. She might be falsely accused of making people eat food they don't know, but the kids have no doubt about her cooking, and she is grateful and proud. Daniel wonders what kind of food is that, and the kids finds it really delicious. She knows, as expected, it is so nice to eat together. Hazel asks Daniel, it is fun to eat together, right? To which he tells her yes. It is a pity for children to eat alone at a large table in the Grand Palace at first. She tells him that he was against having lunch at the herd when they got together and ate together. She asks him he liked it right and questions why doesn't he ask His Highness to change it to a small dining room. He responds he will try as he does not know if his Duke will listen to him. Hazel tells him he's a very good person, so he should please make sure to deliver it to the Grand Prince when he comes back. As for her, because when His Highness returns, she has to leave. Daniel stares at her at the same time. In the Eastern Empire, they decide to have a short break and get ready in advance. The knights wonder if the rumors that he has a girlfriend are true. The other one questions what kind of funny rumor is that. He questions who are they talking about. To which one responds, who can it be other than the Grand Duke? They look at him stating that every chance his Duke gets, he's staring inside that locket. And that expression on his face, anyone would think it is a gift from a lover. They wonder if there's a picture of some noble lady inside. But the other one says that these days people put hair inside. However, in reality it is a picture of the children. He thinks to himself that he misses the kids, and he hopes they are having fun and behaving well as eating properly. He thinks if the kids even understand how he feels, even without showing it. Some people insist that is love. One of the knight asks him to please eat. He looks at the food and realizes he guessed he should, as this is the battlefield after all. After he takes a bite, he wonders how could anything taste this bad. It is salty, sour, and sweet all at the same time. He thinks to himself that the kids must be eating hazel soup right now. He decides that he should finish this campaign quickly and go back so he can also have some. He had forgotten that she'd be fired the moment he returns. Right then, someone asks for help. It is a woman as she calls out the Grand Duke. She begs him to save her child. She mentions that her child was kidnapped by the man-eating bees in the forest. His Duke is totally taken aback as he thinks, just as the name suggests, they prey on humans. They must have taken the child to feed their larvae in the nest. He knows since the child was not eaten immediately, there is still hope. Right then, his Duke is informed that the scouts located the man-eating bees' nest earlier today. His Duke commands them to assemble a search party at once, and he will lead the operation himself. After a while, they embark on the journey and finds the man-eating beef. His Duke commands everyone to take aim. One of them states that he will open the entrance. The moment he opens the entrance, all the bees come out for attack, but before anything can happen, they attack the bees and finish them. Right then, the knight informs the Duke that they found the child too. His Duke becomes really happy as he's informed that aside from a few scratches, the child is unharmed. His Duke looks at the child before he decides, let's get him back to his mom now. But before anything, the knight shouts at his Duke as a bee is behind him. Meanwhile, Luca asks Hazel how many nights are there until his brother comes back. Hazel ponders that she heard there is no set date for the Grand Duke's return. He can come back only after driving out all the monsters that have taken over the forest under the Emperor's orders. They said it would take about 2 weeks, but it has already been 10 days with no news. She tells Luca maybe he won't come back until all the broccoli in the garden has grown. She ponders it takes about 3 months for them to fully grow. So that is what she would tell them. She tells him that they should watch the broccoli grow together and wait for the Grand Duke. Luca hopes they can pick and eat the broccoli with him, as he really wishes to see the Grand Duke soon. However, his Grand Duke is attached as he falls down on the ground. The knight informs him that he was stung while protecting the child and he should get a medic quickly. The other knights are talking to each other, asking if they saw how the queen bee exploded in mid-air by herself. His Duke is really frustrated by it as he thinks he was in such a hurry he ended up using a power he should not have in front of others. He is questioned why did he do something like that, as if the poison had reached his heart it would have been disastrous. His Duke laughs stating, but is not a relief that his face is unharmed. He is just thinking about how the crown prince would have grit his teeth, saying even in death the guy is handsome. He is told that he is joking about something so serious, and also unfortunately, the crown prince won't have the chance to say that at his funeral, as the poison stinger did not pierce all the way through his chest. By sheer luck, the locket took the hit instead. His Grand Duke looks at the locket as he realizes it is Hazel's gift. He notices that it has been broken. He tries to stand up before he is told to wait a moment because if he moves suddenly like that it is dangerous, but he responds that he needs to return home. For some reason he has a bad feeling. Luca and Luna are sleeping, and outside the mansion, an unfamiliar man stands staring at the mansion. Inside the mansion, Hazel asks the kids how many times has she said that it is time for bed. They are still brimming with energy after gardening first thing in the morning, horseback riding lessons, and playing ball with Daisy. They're just like beagles. She tells them to stop running around now and go to her room as she will read them a bedtime story. As they get on the bed, Luna mentions that she wishes to read the story and she can read it all today. Hazel is aware that lately Luna's reading skills have improved so much that she is super into reading storybooks. She tells Luna alright she can do that. Luna begins to read it as Hazel tells her that she is doing amazing. Luca already falls asleep. Hazel is aware that every man is about to fall asleep while reading. Hazel thinks she should tuck them into bed in their room once they both fall asleep. Luna mentions that she wishes to be Thumbelina to playing flying on Mr. Swallow's back and sleeping in a walnut shell bed. Right then they all become scared because of a thunderstorm. Hazel wonders if it is pouring down today. She is aware that she almost finished putting them to sleep. Luca asks Hazel, "Cannot they sleep here tonight?" Hazel is aware that Elliot said they could not do that. She's aware, but it is worth to make them sleep in a dark room alone on a day like this. She then notices that Luna is gone. She calls out to Luna and asks her if she's scared of the thunder too. Luna mentioned that is not the case, stating that she's going to protect Luca and Hazel. Hazel tells her, but she said that it was scary last time. Luke then asks her, how can the head of a grand duchy be afraid of some thunder? Right then another thunder comes, to which she screams. Hazel thinks to herself that she does not really have a choice now. Both of the kids are sleeping with her. She's happy that everyone has fallen asleep. This reminds her of the day she first arrived at the Grand Duchy. She thinks surely even the Duke would understand on a day like this. She hears a voice, to which she wakes up. She wonders, what is it this time? She really wishes to sleep. She opens the door and finds two men fighting with swords. She wonders if the guards are sparing or something, thinking that she should get a good look at their faces and tell Sir Daniel later. But then she notices the person fighting is Sir Daniel. Right then, a man is thrown out of Luna's room. She then notices his clothes, thinking, is this not the uniform of the Grand Duchy's staff? They look at her, stating it looks like she's the nanny, and asks her, where are the kids? She runs towards the room. As he runs after her, questioning, where are they? Daniel yells at Hazel to never hand the kids over to him. The man yells at her to stop right there. He's just about to grab onto her, but she closes the door on time. The cat and dogs ask her what is going on, to which she says she does not know either. But she's aware first they need to hide the kids. She tells them to wake up, stating that they have to run away. She is aware that they have grown plumper as of late, so she cannot carry them out, and there's no time either, so it cannot be helped. She takes out a question and asks them if they want to drink strawberry juice that turns them into terminal. They become really shocked as they say okay, but they know it doesn't taste like that. They then become really small and get into her hands. She decides to hurry now. Right then, the door is broken. The man steps in and asks the nanny where are the children. He mentions they were not in their rooms, so she should tell him right now unless she wishes to die prematurely. She tells him she does not know where they are. She is hiding them in her hands. She knows handling blades dangerously in front of kids again. The man yells at her where the kids are. He even curses the kids, to which she thinks not only did this person wake her precious angels up, but he cursed them. She tells Luna and Luca to stay here for a moment as she puts them in her pocket. The man is totally confused, thinking, who is she talking to? She tells that person that she cannot hold back herself anymore as she begins to use her magic. An explosion occurs, but it suddenly disappears. The man becomes scared, to which he is confused as he notices nothing happened. He questions if this is some sort of joke, and if she really wants to rib it. He turns into a frog as she kicks him out of the window, asking him to get out of here. The other man questions what was that light just now, then notices her as the question. So this is the nanny's room where the children are hidden. She looks at them and wants them to get out at once. She uses her magic and turns their swords into a sausage. They totally become shocked as she yells at them that she's so annoyed, and she barely managed to put them to bed and start attacking them with her magic. The men run away as she becomes fairly lonely. She is aware she promised herself that she would never ever do the things the evil witch had done. She wonders just why are they provoking someone who has never done anything. She has tears in her eyes before a man launches for an attack, but her dog attacks her before that. The dog tells her that they will take care of things here, so she should go. She thanks him and states that she will repay them with homemade jerky. The dog tells her to make sure she gives them a variety. She runs away. As she is out, she ponders that the kids must have been so shocked and that she should act like nothing happened. She puts her hand inside the pocket, wishing for the kids to come out. As she brings them outside, both of them are really scared. She tells them everything is over now. It is time for good children to go to bed. She tells them she will make them a bet, so they should wait here patiently. They notice that everyone has gotten so much bigger, and then they find giant cookies. They start eating them as she thinks they may be sweets, but she's sure some crumbs should be fine. Luca tries to get sugar, to which she tells him that is cheating. She mentions she is almost done, so they should sit tight for a little longer. They make them a little bad. Muna realizes it is a real walnut bed, and she asks if there's a flower petal blanket too. Hazel tells them of course there is, and now all they have to do is sleep soundly and have sweet dreams. They both found it very soft. Luca mentions that he feels like he's sleeping in a field of flowers. Hazel asks. Luna is not. She's tired. Luna asks her, what if those scary people come back again? If they came before too, Luna mentions Luca may not remember. But at the villa and the birthday party too, she remembers hearing the head butler say that when she was a baby, there was a time when a nanny suffocated her with a pillow and almost killed her. Hazel is totally shocked as this is coming out of the mouth of a 7-year-old. She had wondered why the kids hated nannies so much and why they wanted her as their nanny instead. So they both needed someone to trust and lean on all along. She tells Luna it is okay and she is here, and they should leave the adult stuff to her and only have the sweetest of dreams. Meanwhile, Daniel ties all the men. He notices some sausages, wondering what is all this mess. He asks about the witch and the children. He's informed that Luca and Luna were not here in the first place and Hazel is hiding in that closet right now. Daniel opens the closet as he ponders, to think that it was going to be used like this. He was originally planning on summoning a magician and chasing the witch away. Daniel steps inside the closet and closes it, which makes everyone shocked as they question how can he go alone in a closed end with a woman. There is no doubt that the captain was lured by the witch and they need to open the door for him. But then they think that it seems like they are making a grave mistake as they open the clothes and they find no one here. Daniel then goes inside there. Hazel calls out to him and questions if all the bad guys were caught. Daniel tells her yes, thanks to her, and questions about the kids. She shows him the kids. He then calls out to her and thanks her. He tells her that the heroic deed that she has accomplished today, he will make sure to inform the Grand Duke about them. He then calls the children Thumbelina and Thumbelino, how they were almost captured by the frog and the witch who bravely stopped him. They both smile. Meanwhile, his Duke steps inside the mansion and looks at Luna's room. He's totally shocked as he wonders how is the room like this. As his Duke is back, Hazel finds him and calls out to him. As his gaze falls on her, he calls her a witch and questions just what happened here. He yells at her, asking where the children are as she is taken aback by his rudeness. Before she can say anything, Daniel says that he will explain everything to him. The next morning, both the Duke and Daniel stand in the garden near a hole. It turns out that they crossed a wall by digging a tunnel. Daniel believes that an ignorant person was definitely behind this, not to mention how ridiculously strong they were. Judging by the strength and manner of speech, it appears they were northern barbarian mercenaries. The Duke questions about it. He is aware that he has experienced their brutality and sheer power on the battlefield countless times. Unlike the Night Order, the patrolling guards lack experience, and yet they somehow manage to fend the invasion off. The Duke tells Daniel that he has done the impossible, mentioning good work. Daniel then opens up to him, confronting that they were actually not the ones who did the work. If it were not for the witch, they would not be able to face him like this right now. The Duke seems a bit surprised as he questions the witch did it. Daniel explains not only did she turn all their swords into sausages and broccoli, judging by how angry she was, she did not seem to be on their side either. Daniel then asks the Duke how come he returned before completing the expedition. The Duke responds that he left it in the hands of the temporary vice captain. Daniel asks him if by any chance has he received information regarding the invasion. The Duke says that is not the case. He then thinks about the pendant. He informs Daniel that he needs to go somewhere and they will be delaying the prisoner interrogation in the meantime. Meanwhile, Hazel is thinking that she moved all her things using magic, so there's nothing to pack. She knows since they both would cry, it would be best not to say goodbye. That makes her upset, thinking if she should at least leave a letter. The Duke barges in her room, calling out her name. She gets up with a look of confusion, questioning how come he came all the way here. He suddenly apologizes to her for jumping to conclusions about her a little while ago, mentioning he said such harsh words to his sibling's savior. He even asks her how could he ever repay her. He notices that the window is broken and questions about it. She remembers how the window got broken and wonders if he found out about everything, which makes her a bit startled. She tells him that she will cover the window repairment fees. He is confused by her statement. He explains to her that the Grand Duchy can pay for those kinds of things. She tells him that she was also planning on asking for a contract extension, if nothing happened, that is. But now she really has no excuse. Is the matter of the window, and not to mention how she turned an intruder into a frog. She tells them that Guy cursed the chestnuts, which makes the Duke taken aback. She has tears in her eyes as she mentions to him that she was just so angry at that moment and it really was not on purpose. He is totally confused by her behavior, not aware of what he should do at this situation. She then states since this is their final meeting, there is something she must apologize for. She says that at first she suspected that he was suffering from grandiose delusions and paranoia, from that thick rule book to checking for poison at every opportunity. But she was so shocked yesterday after hearing Luna talk about what had happened in the past. He then tells her they can at least try to block direct attacks like they did this time, which leaves her stunned. He asks her if she ever heard the rumor that his parents did not really die from a disease. The atmosphere gets a bit dark as he says they were so healthy that there could not possibly be a reason behind their sudden death. No particular poisons were found in their systems either. They were found lifeless in 1-year-old Lucas' room. He tells her he's acting even more paranoid around his siblings since they still haven't found the reason behind their deaths. Whatever it may have been, he believed it was assassination. At that time, he was only 17 and still rather young. But not anymore. Even if he will be assassinated in the future, he will hold on until Luca is able to become the family head. He tells her he will never let that happen again. She is moved by his conversation as she starts crying. He notices that and questions why is she crying again. He tries to wipe her tears and tells her if anyone passing by sees a young woman crying in a room alone with someone, they would think weirdly. She tells him, but he's still very young too, so she just felt terribly sorry for him. This makes him confused as he thinks he's not young. He says that he supposed he would seem young to a witch who has lived for hundreds of years. She wonders if she's that old. She tells him she knows she has to leave now, but questions if she can come to see the children sometimes. He tells her no. This leaves her a bit sad, but she tells him she expected that. She says goodbye to him and mentions she'll be going now. As she turns around and starts to walk away, he says that this really makes no sense at all. He calls out her name and tells her that the temporary protection contract is over. She tells him yes, she's aware. She grabs the doorknob as she wishes goodbye to the kids in her mind. The Duke grabs her from her cloth, leaving her stunned. She turns to ask him why he is grabbing onto her. With a nervous look on his face, he mentions what he meant is that they should make a new contract. This leaves her very shocked. He commands her to give her a pen and some paper as she gives it to him with her magic. He writes on the paper and hands it back to her. She looks at the contract knowing it is a contract instead of rules and regulations. The contract period is until a nanny is no longer needed at the Grand Duchy. Her eyes wide open and a look of astonishment covers her face. She questions what is this as she begins to tremble. This makes her incredibly happy as she signs it and gives it back to him. She also writes on the contract that she will give them lots of love and she will raise them well and protect them. After receiving the contract, he questions who draw hearts in contracts. She responds that she was just so happy. The Duke thinks about how much she likes his sibling, which makes him not understand her at all. Daniel, with a frustrated expression, tells his Duke that he seriously cannot understand him. He asks the Duke just why did he extend the nanny's contract. The Duke thinks he might lose it if he finds out the condition of their contract. Both kids are busy implanting. Daniel yells at the Duke, asking if he's even listening. The Duke says that he'll take over the task of surveilling the nanny, which he hated so much for the time being. The Duke ponders that it is true that there is no signs of the usual cold they catch around this time of the year, thinking that the nanny's words held some truth to them, as she had told him that they need to touch dirt like this in order to strengthen their immune systems. Daniel tells him that she may have earned the merit of stopping the intruders, but to think that he would be shaken this easily is really surprising. The Duke mentions that the security will be here soon, so he should go and find his business. Daniel is lost for words as he does not know what has gotten into the Duke. Daniel imagines both of them running after each other romantically, as the Duke asks him to not misunderstand this as something weird suddenly, stating that he did not think he would miss following the nanny around this much, mentioning if he tells Her Holiness about this, but Daniel says that he should not even think of telling Her Holiness about this. He turns to leave as the Duke asks him why he is not leaving yet. Daniel questions to think that he left the Holy Night in order to serve a man this cunning. He cannot believe it, stating that he must have been out of his mind and he's leaving now. The Duke knows he did order them to bring the captives down to the dungeons and interrogate them. But there really is no point in doing so. The energy of the mana detected was no different from what he felt from the Crown Prince magician. Now they have proof to trace the attack back to the Crown Prince. However, they should stay quiet for now. They need allies in order to begin an all-out war, but they have no elite families other than Daniel's family. Mark Arwen, public opinion is easily swayed by instigation, and if the Emperor manages to make a slick move to escape the situation, he could be branded a treason. But this will help them greatly nevertheless. He curses Gerald, calling him a stupid little thing. Crown Prince Gerald Valerian, the Emperor shouts at him, questioning how can he make such a reckless move without so much as a word of discussion. Asking him if he has finally lost his mind, the Empress tells him that Gerald is repenting for his actions, so he should drink his tea and calm down. Even the princess wishes for her father to not be so angry. She questions if Gerald would want to be stupid out of his own accord. She is being sarcastic as the Empress calls out to her. This frustrates Gerald as the Emperor asks him if he dares to make an expression like that, as if he is the one in the wrong. Gerald is totally messed up as the Emperor yells at him, stating that he must be set on ruining what he has spent his entire life trying to achieve. The Emperor ponders using his late wife, who was a black magician. He secretly drove out his older brother, who was the crown prince, and made sure he could only produce a single heir by placing a curse on him. But ever since all those curses came undone after his late wife's sudden, things have gone terribly wrong. Moreover, no one sees that useless child Gerald as a potential successor to the throne. The Emperor tells Gerald if he has become crown prince in place of his older sister, he should at least accomplish enough achievements that won't bring him shame. The Emperor shouts at him, questioning if he's even aware how much he is compared to Elliot in high society. In order to restrict Elliot's movement, the Emperor even gave up Regina's right to succeed and stabilize a rule prohibiting the woman from becoming family heads. But a third child was born. He thinks he already knew it would happen too. In order to kill Elliot, he continuously sent him into the battlefield. But each time he achieved victory and came back perfectly alive and well. The Emperor mentions it seems like his conversation with Gerald will be a lengthy one, so he advises the Empress and the Princess to head back. Both the Princess and the Empress leave the room. On the way, the Princess asks her mother if she does not think that Gerald has lost his mind. She mentions that she thinks she should at least call the real doctor for him. His face is the only redeeming quality he has, and he is done for if he is also slow in the head. She asks if that is not the case and calls the Empress by her name, but then she says it looks like her tongue slipped again. It appears she's still stuck in her old habits from back when the Empress was a maid. The Empress ponders that impertinent excuse of a stepdaughter. The Empress tells herself to calm down, as appeasing Albert and stealing the right of succession of the throne itself is enough. If it were up to her, like Gerald suggested, she would love to make her just like her mother. The Emperor tells Gerald that until now he has been slyly taking care of things by his side. But if word gets out about this, the imperial family will be doomed because of him. Gerald calls out to his father and says that he thought that the witch would help him. She was originally on their side, and his only goal was to kidnap the third son with the witch's power, so he could find out the location of the holy relic said to be lying dormant in the Grand Duchy, the very holy relic of the rumors that is said to possess enough holy power to take over the world. This angers the Emperor as he yells at Gerald, telling him that witch is not on their side, but on the side of money. The Duke has an evil laugh on his face. He calls Gerald an idiot. Right then, Hazel steps in, telling the kids about the garden. She bumps into the Duke. She tells him she did not know he was here and apologizes to him. Luna finds her and calls off to her, telling her to look over there. Luna asks her why did only this one grow so quickly. As Hazel notices that, she realizes when the intruder came. She used magic on the broccoli, so she planted a different seedling in a hurry. The Duke tries to tell them as she panics. She knows there is no way that a Duke with no parenting sense would come up with a decent excuse. She gets near to the two, wishing that he does not say anything, but he ends up saying that it looks like someone used fertilizer on it. Look up questions about it as the Duke mentions that he means to say they gave something tasty to the broccoli so it became like that. Hazel realizes that the Duke covered it up well, and come to think of it, she got a bunch of things from the gardener. She wonders if the Duke saw them by any chance. Luca then questions, "It does not have a mouth though." Hazel explains to them that fertilizer is absorbed through the roots. She shows him what made it grow so well, and she is glad that explanation worked. Luca asks her if that is tasty, which leaves both of them totally confused. They tell Luca to not eat it. After some time, Lucas is done with his meal as he has chunks of food on his face. Hazel was really surprised to see that he actually almost ate the fertilizer. Today's lunch menu is tonkatsu. It is a Japanese dish that consists of a breaded deep-fried pork cutlet. She tells everyone that they worked hard in the garden. The Duke looks at the food and questions, is not pork cutlet usually eaten with potatoes, and also why is there rabbit food on a human's plate? Hazel wonders. It is a common combination of ingredients in Korea. She tells him it is actually more tasty than it looks, and he should just wait and see. She mentions she made it by roasting and grinding sesame seeds and peanuts herself. If he tries it drizzled with the dressing she made, he might change his mind. Both Luca and Luna are surprised, but the Duke stays the same. He complains that even a farmer would not eat cabbage raw like that. He becomes really sarcastic, stating unless one is at the brink of fainting due to starvation, even a beggar would not eat this. Luna calls out to him and with a cold look and tells him to not complain at the dinner table. He is totally shocked as she questions if there are any bad adults who do not eat what they are given. Even Luca says that he should eat what is being served to him, questioning if that is not what he used to say. The Duke is totally dumbfounded as he questions if they are really saying this to him. He decides to take a bite, mentioning he will just eat it. After a while, everyone is done with food as Hazel taunts him, stating that it looks like the rabbit food suits his taste. He says that he overlooked the fact that he is the one who fed carrots to Luna and Luca. Hazel ponders there are many surprising aspects she noticed once she gets to know him. And not only did he allow the connection between the closet and the hut, but also he even allowed them to go out to the hut. But she finds him still very picky. She had asked him about changing the mansion's dining table and restaurant to smaller ones, but he rejected her idea. Daniel was thinking that the princess and the prince ate well without complaints in the witch's hut, she asked him. Then how about trying a meal in the hut as a test? It will also give him a chance to check if the hut is safe. She asks him how was today's meal. Was it nice? She tells him it was just the family members, cozy and warm without any servants. He then calls out to her and tells her it seems like she forgot that a nanny is not a family member. She says that is not what she meant. She tells him that the Duke's dining room is too big for just the three of them to eat together. The atmosphere is too formal and mealtime should not turn into etiquette's class. Mealtime has become an obligatory and unpleasant time for the kids. She says that is his fault. He then allows her to use a smaller place for just this week. She tells him it is a great idea. He notices the happiness on her face. She tells him she will give him chocolate as a token of gratitude and asks him if he is not having a hard time these days because he is so busy. He tells her he is fine as he receives the chocolates. She then says, by the way, she heard that he has been working hard to subjugate the monsters. She questions if he received any rewards for that. He tells her he heard they're holding a banquet at the palace, but it does not seem right if he leaves right after finally getting home. She questions if the kids could go with him, but he tells her that the kids would get bored. She's aware that Luna wants to go to the palace and wonders if this is going to be a difficult conversation. He then questions, more importantly, is she not treating him like a child in their conversation? He tells her he is a duke, and he hopes she won't see him as a weak little child. She wonders if she got caught, that she feels sorry for him. She says that taking care of him makes her feel awkward and she will leave them. He then asks her to wait a moment. He says that he has something else to tell her. He states he would like to add one more rule. She wonders what is up now with him. He asks her to give her the rule book and pen, but then finds it with him. He says that he will get this straight. From now on, physical contact with her employer is prohibited. She does not understand it as she questions why all of a sudden. He tells her that she lunged at him earlier. She cannot believe that he is taken aback by that. She realizes that was just a mistake because she was in a hurry. He also tells her to not keep her mouth open in surprise. She is dumbfounded as she wonders did he not say he was not a child? She is aware he is totally acting like one. She questions that he does not have a rule book right. Then she says she will make one for him. Hazel has decided to challenge him. The Duke says he is not an employee of the Grand Duke's household, but she interrupts, mentioning this will be called the Big Brother Rule Book. He is already a great big brother, but it would be nice if he became an even better one. She then writes the rule. Number 1 is to not say any bad words like Dan in front of the kids. #2 is to give 10 compliments to them a day, and the third is to actively participate in activities with the kids. He objects to them all and says that is only because the nanny is so perfect, there is no room for him to do that. She also says he should not use any sarcasm as when Luna watches him, she copies everything and it is seriously hindering her duty to raise them properly. The Duke questions if Luna actually copies him. He says what a pity it is and mentions that attitude is exactly like her late mother's. He says to his mother up there that Luna is growing up with such a big obstacle to her development. Hazel states again that he should not use any sarcasm, and with her magic throws a cloth on his face. She tells him that she is following the rules as there is no physical contact. She says that his way of speaking is unsettling and not a good influence on their education. Even though it seems peaceful now in the Grand Duke's household, it is only for a brief moment. Time passes so quickly. They are going somewhere in a carriage. The Duke calls out to her and tells her since their journey is almost over, Maybe she could relax a bit. She questions what if the carriage gets and they end up bumping into each other. He gives her a weird look and asks her what exactly does she think of him. He is genuinely curious. Lunar says maybe Hazel thinks of him as a nagging tyrant. The Duke tells her that is not a question. Luca asks if they are there yet and when they are arriving. The Duke tells him that it will take 6 more hours. Luca is frustrated as he says that the Duke said just a while ago too that it would take 6 hours. Hazel thinks today marks the 4th day of traveling by carriage. They are on their way to the capital. Tomorrow is the first day of the new year, a day when all the high-ranking nobles of the empire gather to celebrate the Grand New Year festival. Luca is so excited to go out after so long that he decides he'll stay up all night this time, but Luna reminds him he said that last year and he was already sleeping at 9 o'clock. Hazel thinks it must be boring for them, not being able to go outside for safety reasons. She calls out to them and questions how about they play the story-making game until they arrive. The Duke asks her if she's planning to use ink inside the carriage. She tells him no, it is not like that. They will take turns adding one sentence to make a story. It goes as one sentence will be once upon a time there was a Snow White. The second sentence will be she ate a poisoned apple from her stepmother and fell asleep. And the third sentence will be she woke up with the prince's kiss. Hazel then mentions that a long time ago, a poor couple lived in the Black Forest. They had 2 children, a son named Hansel and a daughter named Gretel. The poor couple abandoned the kids in the forest, but the Duke then continues the story, stating that Hansel and Gretel went to the local constabulary and reported their parents for child abandonment. This leaves Hazel totally shocked as she tells him it is supposed to be a fairy tale. He questions if a fairy tale begins with parents abandoning their kids. She then thinks that she guessed that it's not very appropriate. She was just curious about how people would reinterpret Hansel and Gretel. Luna then asks that she will continue the story and mentions Hansel and Gretel, fed up with living with their parents, left home. Luca says the kids met a witch in the forest and the witch gave them a delicious carrot cake. Then Lulia mentions that as Hazel and then Luca, Luna, brother and Hazel, all lived happily ever after. Both the Duke and Hazel give each other a cold stare. Hazel asks the kid, how about they switch to a word chain now? They start playing that game after a while. The Duke is informed that they can hear the footsteps of Yetis nearby. The Duke questions how many are there. He is told they think it is around 2 or 3, and they are getting closer. The Duke commands them to position Victor at the rear and keep the carriage at a distance. Since Yetis are not very tough, Hazel should stay in the carriage with the children. Hazel then questions what should she do. They start to approach them as the Duke notices them. He takes out his sword and commands Hazel to protect the children. A barrier with the help of holy power is being created around the carriage. Hazel realizes that she cannot get out now. If something happens, she wonders what if the Duke ends up in danger. Both Luna and Luca reminds her that the Duke said that Yetis are easy. Luther tells her they should just sit and finish their word chain game. Hazel thinks that the confidence really runs in the genes. Hazel questions if the Duke can really handle 2 Yetis on his own. The Duke launches for an attack as she stares at him through the window. Luna are busy talking to each other, questioning what was the last word they ended on. They still play the game together as Hazel stares at him. They ask Hazel to say something too, but her whole attention is on the Duke. As the Duke finishes both Yetis, she finds him really cool. She says he is so cool as Luca asks her if cool is a word, which shocks her. She wonders what did she just say. After some time has passed, Hazel notices that the cleanup is taking way longer than dealing with the Yetis. It seems like his Duke finally has a moment to relax. He wipes his face with the cloth. Both Luca and Luna gets off from the carriage and runs towards him, telling him that they were playing word chain with Hazel. Hazel calls out to them, telling them they cannot just run out without permission. She then tries to go after them, but ends up hurting herself, realizing that the holy barrier is still around the carriage. She calls out to the driver and tells him that she is stuck in the carriage and asks him if he could please call the kids back for her. He responds, of course she thinks that, come to think of it, if there's anyone in the Grand Duke's household with holy power. The driver calls out to the kids, telling them that they should come inside the carriage. Meanwhile, Hazel thinks that the holy barrier seems to be limiting magic to inside the carriage only. She then realizes she did feel a faint trace of holy power when the Duke and the knights burst into the cabin. Holy power and magic are fundamentally the same, but are opposing forces. That is what she read in a book. So when a holy barrier is in place, someone like her who has magic cannot pass through, unlike an ordinary human. She then thinks that she should be fine without using any major magic until they arrive, right? The Yetis attack because they are starving due to the winter, not because of an external force. The Duke looks at her as she looks away and wonders why does she keep locking eyes with him. She then feels something as she becomes totally uncomfortable. It turns out that a Yeti stands on top of the carriage. The Duke and even both Luca and Luna notices. She wonders if the Yeti was hiding in the snow. Everyone runs after the nanny. They command if the horses run off it is over and says that they should get to the horses first. Both Luca and Luna start crying, calling out for Hazel. She becomes worried, realizing if it catches the scent of blood, it will charge towards the kids and the Duke and Knights have temporarily disarmed. The Yeti start to damage the carriage. She knows she is the only one who can fight right now. It ends up creating a gap in the holy power in that case. She uses her magic on the Yeti. The carriage ends up falling off with Yeti in it. Everyone is totally shocked as the Duke wonders why did she deliberately use magic to cause a collision. He wonders if she did that to save the kids. The kids calls out for her as she responds that she's okay and she'll be alright. She wishes that the carriage does not crash into any trees or rocks. She opens her eyes after some time when she finds it a relief that she is safe. She knows for now, all she has to do is to get outside. She tries to get up, but someone grabs her hand. It is the Duke as he asks her if she's okay. He mentioned that she seems unharmed, which is a relief. The Yeti ended up getting buried in the snow. He tells her she has saved them again and thanks her. She stares at him for a while and tells him it is what she is supposed to do. She says that the kids must have been really frightened. He responds they were, but they will be fine once they get back quickly. She then notices his hands, finding them surprisingly big. He helps her get up. She moans as he asks her if he pulled her too hard, but she tells him she thinks she twisted her ankle inside the garage. He tells her he remembered reading the teleportation magic cannot be used on heavy people. She asks him if he does not know any healing magic. He questions if she does not use a broom. She tells him she does not, and besides, she cannot move out of here because of the holy power. He finds it a problem. She then realizes that the holy barrier is gone now. He tells that the horses ran off when the reins snapped, stating there is only one option. She questions why is he dragging this out and asks him to tell her the option. He says that the only way is for him to carry her. She questions if that is the only choice, and sarcastically says good thing there is no rule against physical contact with the nanny in his rule book. He questions if he should add a rule against teasing her employer. He carries her and calls out to her. He tells her if she doesn't want to fall to the ground, she will need to wrap her arms around his neck. She tells him yes, she has never been carried like this before. He says he has never carried anyone like this either. She then ponders, come to think of it, if the Duke ran all the way here as there is no horse here. His neck is all red from the cold. She knows it is midwinter, and they are outside, and he did not even dry his soaked shirt properly. She realizes his hair are also red. She calls out to him and touches his collar, which surprises him. She asks him what happened to his jacket and tells him to button up properly. He then says that like he said before, he is not a child. She apologizes to him. He then asks her what issues are fearless. She treats him like a kid, just like she did a moment ago. She fearlessly fought a bear, fearlessly connected the wardrobe to her cabin. And just now she fearlessly watched a bloody fight. Tells him that she does get scared and it was the beast that did the fighting, not her, and the wardrobe did not break any rules. She wonders why did he have to bring up that moment earlier. She then thinks she cannot stop thinking about it. She then asks him if he really ran all the way here. He does not tell her about it as she asks him again. But he changes the topic and tells her they're almost there. After some time, tells both Luca and Luna that they must be really cold and states that they both will be back soon so they should not worry. Luna says it is taking a lot longer than expected. Luna then suddenly becomes shocked as she notices something. She notices the Duke coming back with Hazel. She teases him, asking what is he doing. He tells her to not say weird things and mentions that Hazel twisted her ankle. This causes Luna to worry. She panics and asks for a Dr. and tells Hazel that she will blow on it for her. The Duke says that the kids never pay attention when he is hurt. The kids ask him if he is hurt, and he says no. Luna asks the Duke to not be jealous. Hazel knows that there is no way that the Duke will ever tell the kids that he's injured. They decide to hurry and get the healing potion. Hazel uses the healing potion on her feet. The Duke helps her stand and asks her if she can stand. She tells him that she's all better now. Luca says that he must have healed her by blowing on it. The Duke tells her that she should please ride with the kids in the far carriage, as it looks like fixing the carriage will take some time. The Duke is informed that they will head to the village first to prepare and return later. The Duke informs her that it seems like they will need to camp here for the night. so she should get some rest. As the Duke lets go off her hand, she thinks that he is an adult. There was a rumor that the Duke returned from a campaign with broken ribs, and she brought him a healing potion after hearing the rumor. He thanked her and told her that she should not mention this to his siblings. She realizes that the Duke is definitely a remarkable adult, but she wonders why does he keep bothering her. She thinks that he does seem lonely. They find an inn nearby. She thinks even the members of the Grand Duke's household looks excited finding this inn. The meal is served to them. Look up questions. When is the Duke coming? Hazel realizes that Luca must be hungry, but he's looking for the Duke first, wanting to share delicious food. She realizes that is true love. She tells Luca and Luna that Duke is talking to the owner for a bit, and he said they could start eating, so they should eat before it gets cold. Both Luca and Nura say they should eat while it is warm. She tells them if it gets cold, they can reheat it, so they can eat first. A bite and finds it hot, as Hazel tells her it is hot, so she should blow on it before eating. She also tells Luca to not roll beans around with his hands. The farmer worked so hard to grow those beans. Hazel thinks that she cannot take her eyes off them for a second, finding them little troublemakers. But she thinks that recently they have started enjoying this unfamiliar dishes, and even Harold's cooking too. It feels like they are learning to appreciate the fun of experiencing different tastes and textures. The Duke steps in the inn as Luna and Luca calls out to him. The Duke asks them if the food is up to their liking, as they respond yes. As he takes a seat, Hazel notices some snow on him, as she thinks it looks like it is snowing outside. Victor tells the Duke to take a drink, as he also tells Hazel that she should have a drink too. She tells him she's fine as she's weak with alcohol, and you never know what might happen, so she lives in a family-friendly way. In the original Hansel and Gretel story, witches were heavy drinkers in her world. Victor drinks it all and tells her she should drink when her employer allows her. Luca notices the way Victor drinks and asks Hazel why does not Victor follow table manners even though he is a noble. Hazel responds to Luca that he should not say that to an adult. The Duke also drinks. Hazel notices him and ponders he could totally be a bear commercial model. More importantly, she wonders, why is there so much snow piled up? She wants to brush it off. She's aware it is none of her business, but she remembers the no-touch rule. She tries to blow it off as the Duke notices her and asks her what is she doing, as she tells him she's doing it because the snow was stuck there and he's the one who said no touching, that is why she blew it off for him. He tells her to use magic dots. She asks him if he wants her to move each snowflake individually with magic. He doesn't say anything. After he is done with it, he asks her if he is supposed to say thank you in situations like this, but then he says he did her the favor of brushing off the snow, so she should be the one thanking him. She questions, how does that even make sense? Luna teases them, asking what is going on. Luna says that Daniel should really see this scene, as Hazel asks Luna to not get the wrong idea, and then she suddenly asks, where is Daniel? The Duke says that he heard from the innkeeper that His Holiness the Pop's possession was attacked by a group of Yetis last night. He seemed quite shaken, so he instructed him to head over there. She questions about it as the Duke tells her that Daniel used to serve His Holiness as a holy knight. She realizes that the holy power she felt at the cabin and in the carriage must have been Sir Daniel's. He asks her to not mention it to Daniel, as she questions why. He says that sometimes he forgets that she's a witch. She then ponders she keeps forgetting that she's a witch too. It's the night time. They find a place to stay in, as she tells the kid that their shared sleeping room is in that room over there. She tells the kids that they say it is the biggest room. She opens it and finds the Duke and closes it right away. He tells her that is his room. She questions if that room is not for her and the kid. The woman behind her asks her if there's a problem. She tells the woman that it seems there has been some overlap with the rooms and asks if there is another room that is available. The woman tells her she's afraid there is not any. The woman becomes shocked and questions if they are asking to have their children sleep in a separate room so they can have time together, causing both the Duke and Hazel to be totally taken aback.